Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the Scion Fanfics. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku had Pokemon bonding quirk? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Humans and Pokemon have lived in Earth together since the dawn of time. Small towns would prosper to become big cities and create new technological innovations. While in the wilderness and seas, Pokemon roamed as much as they pleased. However, their way of living will change when superhuman abilities called quirks would arise. By the time you get your quirk, there will be a Pokemon who will approach you and choose you as their trainer if you are worthy. A starter Pokemon, as they say. Of course, with all these superpowers, people will use it for selfish deeds. Those who misused their quirks and Pokemon were called villains. To fight these villains, there were heroes who used their quirks and Pokemon to fight for justice. Welcome to the world of quirks and Pokemon. All the kids at school have their quirks and Pokemons. They all got along with their Pokemon quite well. Izuku Midoriya, a 4-year-old boy with curly green hair and freckles on his innocent-looking face, sat all alone and watched as the children played with their quirks and Pokemon. Unfortunately, he didn't have a Pokemon or quirk. Hence, the other children didn't want to be friends with him. He wanted a quirk or a Pokemon so badly. But the boy was diagnosed as quirkless, meaning he will never develop one no matter how much he wanted. Even a Pokemon like Caterpie or Magikarp is just fine. He just wanted a friend? And having no quirk means that Pokemon won't see you as worthy to be their trainer. He will never be a hero or a trainer. Everyone says so, therefore it must be true. They call him Deku. A person who can't do anything. Suddenly, there was a sound of small explosions and a loud thud. The boy saw Katsuki Bakugo, a 4-year-old boy with a spiky blonde hair. He pushed another boy who was one of their classmates, making him fall to the ground. There were tiny explosions coming from Katsuki's hands, a sign that he was angry. He was always angry, but using his quirk means he is more angry than usual. What was that, you loser? Katsuki asked angrily. I just said my quirk was cool. The boy responded in frightened tone. The explosive boy scoffed, and kicked the gut of the boy on the ground. The boy grunted in pain and started to cry. The first thing Izuku knew was that he was running. The next moment, he found himself in between Katsuki and the boy he threatened. Hey Deku! What are you doing here? Katsuki asked angrily. His hands made even more explosions. Stop it, Kaken. Can't you see he's hurt? If you don't stop, I won't forgive you. Izuku responded. He was obviously scared, yet he interfered bravely. Just like a true hero would. But Katsuki didn't like it. He didn't like how a useless, quirkless Deku would try to play the hero. Other kids, especially Deku, were just stepping stones on his way to be the #1 hero. He was once best friends with Izuku. They would even pretend as heroes and made plans for the future. But that changed ever since he obtained his quirk explosion. He wasn't Izuku's friend anymore. Friends don't hurt each other or call them mean names, do they? Everyone said he had an amazing quirk and he could be like All Might. Therefore, he succumbed to his own pride and ego, thinking that no person or Pokemon was greater than him. Because of that, he became a big arrogant, explosive JRK that would pick on the quirkless kids, the kids with weak quirks or Pokemon, and people that disagree with him. This boy thinks that not even the legendary Pokemon that can control time, space, gravity, weather, or even the god of all Pokemon is greater than him. Stupid Deku. You think you're on my level? You're even worse than these losers. No one is greater than me. I'll be the greatest hero ever. I'll even beat and catch all those legendary Pokemons. You're scared, Deku. But you still came here and tried to play the hero. I'll show you what happens if you even try. Kaken yelled as he approached Izuku and punches him in the face. Izuku cries in pain and falls to the ground. Izuku knows that treating people this way is bad whether they are quirkless or not. They are still people, for crying out loud. He tries to look behind him, only to see the kid that Katsuki threatened was running away. I'm the one being hurt by Kaken now, but at least I helped him get away. He feels a kick on his stomach. Then another, and a punch to his shoulder, then a kick to his face. He was starting to lose consciousness. He saw that Kaken and his friends was the ones who hurt him. He also saw the teachers and other adults just watching Izuku get punched, kicked, and get hurt even more. The other kids just watched, no one tried to help him. And then, he lost consciousness. Some time later, he regained his consciousness. He looks around, and sees that he wasn't at the playground anymore. He was on a bed and there was a roof above his head. But this wasn't his own bed or his house. This was someone else's house, meaning someone must have helped him or someone kidnapped him. Silly me. If someone kidnapped me, they wouldn't heal my wounds. He tries to get up, but is stopped by a pair of arms. No. You're still hurt. Just lie down and rest, okay? Said a voice that is bubbly, yet soothing voice. Izuku sees that it was the voice of a girl about his age. By her side was a Jigglypuff. She is a fair-skinned girl with a permanent blush on her cheeks. She had large and round brown eyes. Her hair is also brown and about shoulder length curved inwards. There are 2 longer clumps of her hair on either side of her face. Hi there. What's your name? I'm Ochako Uraraka. The girl said cheerfully. Oh, I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku responded nervously. Hey, kid. You're finally awake. We found you covered with bruises and wounds in a playground. What happened to you? Asked a middle-aged, somewhat muscular man. This man is Ochako's father. And nothing. Nothing happened. You know, it's bad to lie. Ochako pouted cutely. She's right. We won't get mad if you tell us. Says a woman that looked exactly like Ochako, but older. Izuku knew that this was her mother. Oh okay. Kaken did this. He was hurting another kid, but I helped that kid. Kaken got mad and punched me, then his friends joined. At that moment, Ochako and her parents got mad. Not at Izuku, but at the ones who hurt him. Why would they even hurt you? Kaken picks on kids with weak quirks and Pokémon or quirkless kids. And, well, I'm quirkless. That so? What about your teachers? They didn't even help you. No. They just watched. What kind of? The teachers just let it happen? They shouldn't even be teachers for neglecting their job to DSPLN a bully. As for Uraraka's parents, they decided that they are gonna tell Izuku's parents about the bully. Speaking of the boy's parents, they must be really worried right now, therefore they have to take this boy back before they get even more worried. Midoriya, right? Do you know where you live? We'll take you there. Are you sure? I don't want to be a bother. It's not a problem, boy. We just want to help you. And so Izuku, being accompanied by Ochako and her parents, went back to his house. Just outside the house was Inko and Hisashi looking very worried. They immediately rushed to Izuku once they find him with the Uraraka family. My baby boy is safe. Thanks goodness. The boy's mother said in a worried tone while embracing her son. Thank you so much for finding our son. How can we ever repay you? The boy's father said. No. That won't be necessary. We just did the right thing. Mr. Uraraka said. And so, the Midoriya and Uraraka families introduced themselves to each other. Ochako even wanted to be friends with Izuku. As the days go by, their families would get closer because of Izuku and Ochako. It turns out that the Urarakas owned a construction family that unfortunately has a weak business, so they moved to this city from their hometown. How convenient that they ended up on the same neighborhood. Therefore, Izuku would always go home early after school was over. He would then go to Ochako's house to play with her. They didn't forget to tell the Midoriyas about this Kaken kid and the teachers at his school. Inko was furious and madly disappointed about it. She told her good friend Mitsuki about her son's behavior. Ever since then, Katsuki just stayed away from Izuku and glared daggers at him. As for Izuku, he may not have a new Pokémon, but now, he has a new friend. Not just any friend, but a real friend. But that would all change one day as he heads home. Previously on Izuku, I choose you. It was convenient that they were on the same neighborhood. Therefore, Izuku would always go home early after school was over. He would then go to Ochako's house to play with her. They didn't forget to tell the Midoriyas about this Kaken kid and the teachers at his school. Inko was furious and madly disappointed about it. She told her good friend Mitsuki about her son's behavior. Ever since then, Katsuki just stayed away from Izuku and glare at him. As for Izuku, he may not have a new Pokémon, but now, he has a new friend. Not just any friend, but a real friend. But that would all change one day as he heads home. There were a lot of changes in Izuku's life in the past week. The other kids only ignored him instead of bullying him, though Kaken still keeps glaring at him. Then, Izuku gets a new friend. His didn't mind that he was quirkless. In fact, his friend changed the meaning of Deku and they were now on a first-name basis. I think it's kinda cute. Plus, it sounds like Dekairu. Don't listen to them, okay? I know you can be a hero and a Pokémon trainer. That day, Izuku hugged his new best friend and broke down into tears. But those were tears of happiness, not sadness. He was happy that someone else believed in him. Speaking of his new best friend, today was Friday, so he was going to have a sleepover with Ochako later today. He was very excited to go home and play with Ochako again. So the moment the teacher dismissed them, he packed his things as fast as he could and left. As he was walking down the road, he hears a Pokémon cry that was unlike any other Pokémon. He never heard this kind of sound before. It sounded like a tiny combination of squeak and chirp. It came from behind a rustling bush. Curiosity filling him, he checks the bushes and sees a tiny hedgehog-like Pokémon smiling at him. It had a green bushy hair and 2 flowers with 6 petals each. The tiny Pokémon's green bushy hair reminded Izuku of his own hair. "Ooh! Your hair is just like mine," Izuku said as he looks at the Pokémon curiously. The Pokémon didn't seem like it was asking for help, but it looked hungry. So instead of trying to help, he takes out the Poke Puffs he made in class. He was going to give it to Ochako's Pokémon, but she wouldn't mind if he gave some to this cute Pokémon. He takes the frosted mint-flavored one and sets it in the ground just in front of the Pokémon. Izuku takes a step back, allowing the Pokémon to eat it. The Pokémon approaches it, and warily takes a sniff at the Poke Puff. Then another, and another. She licks the Poke Puff and proceeds to eat it quickly and happily. The Pokémon makes a cry that sounds pleased, but it seems hungry for more, so Izuku gives it another Poke Puff. This time, it was the sweet frosted Poke Puff. This time, the Pokémon doesn't hesitate to take the Poke Puff and eats it in a more relaxed and comfortable manner. After it finished eating the Poke Puff, it jumps towards Izuku's head and lies down on his green bushy hair. About 3 minutes ago, Shaymin was running as fast as her tiny legs could move, attempting to escape from one pro hero and one Pokémon hunter trying to catch her. Though a few legendary Pokémon would aid pro heroes, such as this All Might person often helped by Victini, almost all of them stayed away from humans ever since Quirks appeared. Some people may have caught legendary Pokémons before the Quirk era, but no one managed to catch one of them ever since Quirks appeared. They were afraid of Quirks according to what the humans say. But really, they could actually break free at any time, even if they were caught. They could destroy a Pokeball thrown at them or break it apart from the inside. They just test whether or not the trainer trying to catch them is a good one and worthy for their aid. After deciding if the trainer is worthy, they just stay for as long as they wanted or until the trainer sets them free. But ever since Quirks appeared, the legendary Pokémons didn't want to aid them. It wasn't that they were afraid of Quirks itself. They're afraid of what humans can do with Quirks. But Shaymin in particular, hates humans for what they have become. Shaymin hated that they mostly used their Quirk to commit crime and force their Pokémon to fight other Pokémon. They are now more violent than ever. Even Giratina only uses violence when necessary, but humans? They use violence on almost every occasion. Why don't humans realize that violence creates more violence? She missed the time when Pokémon and humans would befriend each other. She and some human children would even run and play in flower fields. But now, Pokémon would either choose worthy humans, be captured, or stay away from them. The world is now run by Quirks and full of violence. She snaps out of her thoughts as she begins to feel the exhaustions of running non-stop, so she slows down and looks around. She finds herself near a house with tall green trees and small but lush bushes. Huff, pant. Finally. Looks like I've lost them. And here's a good hiding spot. She moves toward the bushes and curls her body to blend in with the bushes. After less than 2 minutes passed, she takes a peek out of her hiding spot, and sees a boy with curly green hair. His hair similar to my own. Hee hee. For some reason, she feels that she had a much deeper connection to the boy other than the similarities of their hair. But what could it be? She doesn't think of any other connection other than their green bushy hair. Wait. Green bushy hair? Didn't he tell us that the chosen one is born and that we should keep an eye out for a boy with curly green hair and freckles? Wait, he is the chosen one. He's the one I've been looking for ever since he told us. She cried out loud and in surprise because she finally found the boy they have all been waiting for. She finally found the boy who is destined to change the violent ways of the world. Ooh, your hair is just like mine, the boy said while looking at her with a curious expression. When did he get next to her hiding spot? But whatever the case, Shaymin's instinct wasn't telling her to run away and escape. She could tell that this boy was different from his kind. She could sense no malice or hostility or any ulterior motives from the boy. Only kindness and compassion. After the boy observes her curiously, he then rummages through his backpack and takes out a container. The container had stickers of different kinds of Pokémon and pro heroes. On the lid, it had a big All Might sticker. He opens the container, and a delicious aroma fills the air. He takes one Poke Puff and sets it to the ground, right in front of her, then the boy proceeds to take a step back allowing her to eat the food. You are giving it to me? She sniffs the Poke Puff to make sure it was safe. Not that she didn't trust the boy, but it was more of a habit of hers. She was very careful of whatever the humans would give her, because most of them were traps and part of some plans to capture her. Upon finding no poisons or any other gimmicks in the food, she proceeds to lick it once to see what it tastes like. It's as delicious as it smells. Thanks for the food. Shaymin proceeds to eat the food quickly and happily. She hasn't eaten for a few days ever since she was searching for the chosen one. So obviously, she was starving. The food was great, but she wants more of this delicious food that's not bait. As if the boy understood what she was thinking, he hands her another poke puff. This time, Shamin doesn't hesitate eating the poke puff and eats it in a more relaxed manner. It's sweet. Yummy. Finally, some good unbaited food. After finishing her food, she hops towards the boy and proceeds to lie down on his fluffy green hair. She wanted to lie down on his head ever since the first time she saw his fluffy green hair. She wanted to know how it felt to lie down on his hair. Now she knew. It felt like she was lying on grass and it was very comfortable. Thank you so much. I really like you, green boy. What? You can talk? Yes. All legendary Pokémon can talk. You must be really surprised. Huh? A legendary Pokémon? Who are you? I'm Shamin. May I know your name? Oh. I'm Izuku Midoriya. Izuku? That's a lovely name for a lovely human. Shamin said, which made the boy blush and feel embarrassed. Oh. By the way, you've shown far more kindness than other humans. I like it. Thanks. Izuku responds as he blushed even more. You must also have a strong quirk and a Pokémon that trusts you very much. Actually, I don't have a quirk or a Pokémon. I'm just a weak, quirkless Deku and no Pokémon will ever choose me. I can't be a hero or a trainer. Everyone says so. Is that so? I noticed that you have some scars and bruises on your body. May I know how you got them? Kaken did this. He picks on kids with weak or no quirks and Pokémon. So this Kaken kid is the one who hurts you? Shamin thought to herself. I see. What about the adults? Did they do anything about it? They just watched. And they blame me for the things I didn't do. Anyways, you need to go now. A wonderful Pokémon like you shouldn't be around a quirkless Deku like me. Izuku said as he puts Shamin back to the ground, and begins to leave. At that moment, Shamin knew what she must do. With determination, she hopped towards Izuku's head, and laid down on his hair. She silently made an oath to herself that she will protect this boy from anyone who dared to bring harm to him. Wah! Shamin? What are you doing? Izuku asked in a bewildered tone. Easy. I choose you. Shamin said happily. But why? There's more kids who are better than me. They have quirks and Pokémon. Everyone says I will never have either of them. You're different from other kids. You're kind-hearted and far more heroic than most of the pro heroes I've seen. They would just try to catch a rare Pokémon like me when they see them, but you didn't. You didn't try to take me away or capture me. And it doesn't matter what those people say to you, Izuku. Just because you are quirkless, doesn't make you any less of a person. Shamin says truthfully. Those words brought tears to the boy's eyes. Finally. There was someone who wasn't mean to him aside from his parents and best friend. Let me ask you, Izuku, without the opinion of others. What do you want to be? I want to be a hero that can make everyone around me happy and safe. I want to be a Pokémon trainer that can make his team happy and overcome any challenge. Hick. Then let me help you get there, Izuku. Let me, and the other Pokémon you will befriend, help you be the greatest hero like All Might and the very best Pokémon trainer like Red. Hearing those words made the boy cry even harder. It was as if a dam broke inside of him. Sob, thank you. But isn't helping me unfair to everyone else? Hee hee. You really are selfless, I like it. Think of it as catching up, my precious trainer. Others had quirks since their birth while you didn't have one, correct? Shamin responds. You're right? Oh. It's getting late. We should go home and introduce you to my mom. Izuku said as he quickly wipes his tears. Little did Izuku and Shamin know, a bird-like Pokémon heard their whole conversation. A kind-hearted boy being treated badly because he's quirkless. You don't deserve to be treated that way. I'll help you prove them wrong. I choose you as my trainer. It cried happily. But first, he was going to talk about it to his mother. He was going to tell his mother that he chose a trainer. Meanwhile, in a place where the universe began, a being that had a misty, shadowy form with 4 legs and 2 glowing ring-like eyes watched over them. Shamin. You searched far and wide, encountered humans attempting to enslave you. But you overcame those obstacles and now you found him. You've done well. And the chosen one? Your journey begins with this fateful meeting. How will you proceed through your journey? I will be watching. Mom, I'm back. I have something to show you. Izuku said happily as he runs up to his mother. Izuku was always very sad and lonely ever since he found out he was quirkless. The children at school won't talk to him and would always stay away from him. They even mocked and bullied him. Inko was not only mad upon hearing it for the first time. She was furious and very disappointed. Especially when Katsuki became Izuku's main tormentor, but his teachers just allowed that kid to act that way. It was unacceptable. But now, he had the biggest smile on his face that she ever saw. He only smiled like this when he was with Ochako, but she wasn't here yet. Is he that excited or is it something else? What could possibly make him so happy? What do you want to show me, Izuku? Inko asked in a bewildered tone. Izuku did not say anything. He simply points his finger to a flower on his head. Inko leaned closer to take a look at the flower on his hair. She noticed that some parts of his hair had a lighter color compared to the rest of her son's forest green hair. There were also those strange yellow spots scattered around it. Oh my, this flower looks lovely, Inko says as she attempts to pick the flower. But when she did, there was a tiny squeak. Suddenly, the flower and what she thought was her son's hair moved on its own. She made a loud gasp upon seeing it. Her Primarina, Delphox, Milotic, Altaria, Blissey, and Garchomp immediately rushes by her side, preparing themselves in case there was danger, but Inko immediately calms them down. Upon closer inspection, Inko noticed that it wasn't actually her son's hair, neither was it an ordinary flower. It was actually Shaymin, the legendary Pokémon of gratitude. Her Pokémon also sees Shaymin laying on top of Izuku's head and they too stare at it in awe. They never expected Inko's son to encounter a legendary Pokémon when he was so young. He was only 4 years old, while Inko herself was 13 years old when she had encountered a legendary Pokémon, specifically Meloetta, for the first time. My goodness! Where did you find her, Izuku? Inko asked. She was obviously curious, and so was her Pokémon who was waiting for answers. But before Izuku could answer them, the front door suddenly opens. The family turned to look at the newcomer. It was a fit, good-looking man with curly black hair, freckles on his cheek, and red eyes. This man is Hisashi Midoriya, father to Izuku Midoriya and husband to Inko Midoriya. He also works as a Pokémon ranger for the wildlife protection group of the Yaoyorozu family. Beside him was Ochako Uraraka with a huge smile on her face and carrying her Jigglypuff. Honey, Izuku, I'm home. Your friend's here now, son. Hisashi said in a tired but happy tone. Welcome home, dear. And hello there, you little angel. Inko said, welcoming her husband as she wrapped him in a loving embrace and let's go to pinch Ochako's cheeks. Dad, welcome back. It's so good to see you, Ochako-chan. Look what I found. Izuku said as he runs to his father and his best friend, while being careful not to make Shaymin fall from his head. Wow, what a nice flower. Ochako said, not knowing it was actually a Pokémon. Oh, that's a lovely flower you got there, son. Wait, is that Shaymin? Hisashi yelled in surprise. In his state of shock, he forgot about his tiredness. Hisashi wasn't surprised of seeing Shaymin. Being a Pokémon ranger, he encountered 1 or 2 legendary Pokémon while working. One of them was Reshiram, a white, draconic Pokémon with blue eyes and a jet engine as a tail. He would help Hisashi in his job from time to time. He was surprised that Izuku happened to meet Shaymin when he was so young. His son was only 4 years old. As for Ochako, she looks at the adults in a bewildered manner. She looks at her best friend and sees that he was smiling. She didn't know what a Shaymin is. She didn't even hear of a Pokémon like that. Izukuin? What's a Shaymin? A Shaymin, darling. She's called the legendary Pokémon of gratitude, which means she is very rare. She can also clean places that are dirty and they become full of flowers. Ooh. So she can make flower fields. Can I touch her? Of course you may. A friend of Izuku is also my friend. She can talk? Ochako asked in a surprised manner. Oha. I was really surprised too when she talked. Izuku answered his best friend. So where did you find her, son? Hisashi asked. Oh, I found her near our house. She was hiding in a bush and she was hungry, so I gave her some food, then we talked and she said she wants to stay with me. Izuku said cheerfully while making several hand gestures. Ochako liked seeing her friend like this. When she sees his beautiful and bright smile, her day becomes brighter and all the rain clouds would go away. Metaphorically, that is. Inko and her Pokémon listened fondly to the boy as he talked enthusiasm. They never saw Izuku so happy ever since he was diagnosed Quirkless. Hisashi chuckles seeing his son's antics. It was way better seeing his son happy than seeing him sad and lonely. Is that so? Speaking of food, dinner's ready now. I'm sure you're all hungry. And so, they had a dinner of katsudon and mochi. Izuku and Ochako's favorite foods respectively. Their Pokémon ate some of the poke puffs made by Izuku and more poke puffs made by Inko. The dinner was filled with smiles and laughter. The family and Ochako properly introduced themselves to Shaymin, so did Ochako's Jigglypuff and Inko's Primarina, Delphox, Milotic, Altaria, Blissey, and Garchomp. They finished their dinner and sat at the living room. Izuku and Ochako sat next to each other with Shaymin and Jigglypuff on their lap. So Shaymin, what made you choose our son as a trainer? I thought legendaries like you didn't like humans. Inko asked. It's not that we hate all humans, we hate the ones who are violent and misuse the power given to them. I was impressed by the kindness he displayed to me earlier. I never met anyone with a heart as pure as his. But he is ridiculed or even worse, abused by others because he lacks power. He told me that he wants to be a hero and a Pokémon trainer. Therefore, I will help your son be the greatest hero like All Might and be the very best Pokémon trainer like Red. Shaman declares happily. Her eyes filled with determination. Everyone, except for Izuku himself, had wide eyes filled with surprise upon hearing this. Ochako was glad that Izuku finally got his starter Pokémon. Altoug, her best friend, was still Quirkless. No one would bully him for his lack of Pokémon now. They were going to be great heroes and great Pokémon trainers together. As for Inko and Hisashi, they both knew that legendaries hated the way humans would use their quirk and Pokémon for violence according to what Meloetta and Reshiram said. Although they were friends, Meloetta and Reshiram wasn't officially their Pokémon. But that wasn't the case for Izuku and Shamin. She chose their son as a trainer because of his kindness. Not only that, Shamin would also help their son achieve his goals. They were so proud and happy for him. My baby boy is growing up so fast. Inko says while crying. But they were happy tears. I'll be with you all the way, little champ. Hisashi says with teary eyes. He was clearly happy for his son. We're gonna be great heroes and awesome trainers together, Izuku-an. Ochako said as she hugged the boy and giggling despite her tears. She too was crying happy tears. Oh, and Shamin? Thank you for choosing our son. Inko said thankfully while rubbing Shaman's fur affectionately. No problem, Mrs. Midoriya. Your son deserves all the help he gets, and will ever get, for being the precious boy that he is. Shamin responds as she nuzzles Inko's hand, returning the affection. Call me Inko, Shamin. You are a part of our family now. Family. I'll gladly be a part of your family, Inko. Shamin responds. And so, the father, mother, and son trio embraced each other as Ochako, their Pokémon, watched them fondly. With all the love and gratitude she felt from the family, the flowers in Shaman's body were in full bloom. Shaman knew that the god of Pokémon was watching them from the Hall of Origins. She silently thanked him for having the opportunity to meet this precious boy and his family, and witness their familial love. And so, the night continues. A pleasant and peaceful feeling envelopes the atmosphere. Until a wild Pokémon decided to disturb the family and their peaceful night. Family. I'll gladly be a part of your family, Inko. Shaman responds. And so, the father, mother, and son trio embraced each other as Ochako, their Pokémon, watched them fondly. With all the love and gratitude she felt from the family, the flowers in Shaman's body were in full bloom. Shaman knew that the god of Pokémon was watching them from the Hall of Origins. She silently thanked him for having the opportunity to meet this precious boy and his family, and witness their familial love. And so, the night continues. A pleasant and peaceful feeling envelopes the atmosphere. Until a wild Pokémon decided to disturb the family and their peaceful night. The Midoriya family suddenly hears some strange noises coming from the window. Fear and anxiousness begins to fill the family as Izuku and Ochako as they hid behind Inko. Meanwhile, Inko's Pokémon raised their guards and prepared themselves in order to defend the family and fight the unknown threat. Is it a villain attempting to break into their house? As the family turned to look at the window, they could see that it wasn't a villain nor a dangerous wild Pokémon. It was technically a wild Pokémon, but it looked harmless based on its small round body. Still, they mustn't let their guard down. The silhouette revealed itself to be a small bird-like Pokémon with green and brown feathers. It had a pair of large, black eyes and a stubby beak. It also had 2 leaves sprouting on its chest that resembled a small bow tie. A Rowlet. While normally tranquil and harmless, they can still make their feathers as sharp as daggers. He was knocking on the window with its beak while making several cries. Is it begging the family to let it inside the house? Hisashi heads towards the window and opens the window. Hey there, little fella. You need food or something? Hisashi asked gently. He holds out his finger, allowing Rowlet to sit there. If it was food that Rowlet needed, they can afford to give some. Who? Rowlet responds as it nods its head. Hisashi then gives it a bowl of Pokémon food, which Rowlet happily eats. After eating the Pokémon food, it flies towards some olives on the table and proceeds to eat a few of them. Now that it ate some food, what will it do next? Will it leave the house? Rowlet didn't. Instead, he flew to the direction of the living room and scans around the area. His serious gaze falls into Ochako, who stared at him in awe and a little fear, and Izuku, who also stared back in awe and bewilderment. A few seconds later, Rowlet's serious expression morphs into one of recognition and happiness. Rowlet lands on his shoulder and immediately nuzzles his cheek. Wait. Recognition? Why would Rowlet recognize Izuku? Did they meet each other earlier? But Izuku didn't mention meeting a Rowlet while he encountered and brought Shaman home. What could be the reason? A few hours earlier when Shaman and Izuku had their encounter in the area filled with tall green tress and small bushes, one of those trees happened to be where Rowlet's nest is. Therefore, he was able to listen to the conversation of a quirkless but kind boy and the legendary Pokémon Shaman. He was roosting inside his nest while waiting for his mom to come back, but he heard some voices nearby. He peeks out of his nest and he sees a curly green-haired boy giving some poke puff to a Pokémon. Rowlet couldn't fully see which Pokémon it was because the bushes covered his line of sight. That aside, the boy's bushy green hair looked comfortable. Would it feel like I was laying down on a grass? Or maybe it would feel like my nest. Rowlet thought. He continued watching the boy give more food to the unknown Pokémon. Is the food just a bait so the boy can capture it? His mom said most humans were like that and that's why he should escape from humans the moment he sees them. But Rowlet couldn't sense any hostility from the boy, so does that mean he is doing it out of pure kindness? He did not know the answer yet, and he did not want to jump to conclusions. All he can do is watch, and that's what he will do. After some time passed, a Pokémon suddenly jumps from the bush and lands on top of the boy's head. It lies down and relaxes on his fluffy green hair. Now that Rowlet had a clear view of the Pokémon, he could see its small body with green bush-like fur and yellow spots scattered in it. It also had 2 petals on each side of its head. Rowlet knew that this Pokémon was one of the legendaries, but he couldn't recall her name. They are very alike in terms of their hair. The boy and the legendary Pokémon was now talking about something, so he tried to eavesdrop on their conversation and paid full attention. First, they introduced themselves and Rowlet got their names. Oh, that's right. That Pokémon is called Shaman. So this boy's name is Izuku Midoriya, huh? I'll keep that in mind. Rowlet heard the boy degrade himself by calling himself a weak quirkless Deku and Shaman asking about the scars and bruises on his body. He deduced what he heard and realized that this kind compassionate human was quirkless. And because of something out his control that was decided by his birth, he was abused by others. Then he heard the boy say about a certain Kakin who often bullied him along with other kids at his kindergarten. The boy spoke about his dream to be a hero and Pokémon trainer and then Shaman's declaration of helping him. After not properly meeting the boy, he could tell that he was way better than any other humans he had seen in his life. Rowlet may be young, but he didn't meet any humans that weren't violent. That is until he met Izuku Midoriya. Back to listening to the conversation, Shaman declared that she will help the boy. Sniff sob thank you. But isn't helping me unfair to everyone else? Izuku said. It's not unfair if they had all the advantage while you had none. Rowlet answered in his own thoughts. Hee hee. You really are selfless, I like it. Think of it as catching up, my precious trainer. Others had quirks since their birth while you didn't have one, correct? Shaman responded truthfully. I agree. You deserve all the help you will ever have. Rowlet thought in agreement. You're right? Oh. It's getting late. We should go home and introduce you to my mom. Izuku said as they began to leave and went home. A kind-hearted boy being treated badly because he's quirkless. I'll help you prove them wrong. I choose you as my trainer. Rowlet declared happily. But before that, he would have to talk about it to his parent. Fortunately, he didn't have to wait for long. On the horizon, he could see the silhouette of a Decidueye gradually becoming bigger, nearer and nearer to Rowlet's nest. This was his mother, back with some food from her hunting. Mother, I need to speak to you about something. Do you remember when you said that I should stay away from humans because they are violent? Rowlet asked. Of course. I'd never forget how violent they can be. Why do you ask, my son? His mother responded. Well, I saw a kind-hearted human earlier just now. He was giving the legendary Pokémon Shaman some poke puff. I could sense no malice or any forms of deceit from the boy. As kind-hearted he may be, he lacks a Pokémon or a quirk. Is that so? Tell me more about him. The mother said. Yes, mother. Other humans ridiculed him for that particular, frivolous reason. Telling him that he could never be a hero, yet he shows more kindness than most pro-heroes combined. I want to prove them wrong. I want to help him. Rowlet said with a voice filled with resolve and determination. Then that means? You have chosen him as your trainer? But are you going to challenge him to a battle to prove his worth to you? I don't need to battle him. His kindness alone already makes him worthy. Then go, my child. Find him and befriend him. His mother said with tears forming in her eyes. Always remember that I am proud of you, okay? The mother embraced her child tenderly. After all, this could be their last time seeing each other. She knew that the day would come when her son would leave the nest. However, she never expected it to happen this soon. I will, Mom. Sniff, I love you and I'll miss you, Rowlet said as tears began to fall from his eyes. I will come visit you when I can. I love you too. Now go, my child. Fly, and be the best you can be, together with him and his team. Decidueye said proudly. She lets go of her son from her tender embrace as his son prepared to take flight. Once more, they looked at each other in the eyes. Their eyes were full of tears, but they were also full of pride and love. With a nod, Rowlet spreads his wings and flies to the horizon, with his tears trailing behind him. As the mother watched her son fly, she lets her tears flow that she desperately held back earlier. Rowlet searched and searched for a certain green-haired boy named Izuku Midoriya. For the last 40 minutes, he flew near the windows of some houses and peeked through them. But inside every house he searched, Izuku Midoriya was not there. Suddenly, he heard a low rumble. It was Rowlet's stomach. He was getting hungrier and hungrier as he continued to search. Should he just give up? He already lost count of the houses he searched in the neighborhood. Maybe he should search one last time. He didn't want to give up after making his decision and coming this far. He had the sudden urge to look at the sky as if there was a guide. He noticed that one particular star shone brighter compared to other stars around it. It flickered and shimmered brightly in a brilliant gold and green color on the starry sky. Rowlet never saw this particular star until now. The star shone even more brightly as it shot out a faint beam of light. The beam of light gradually surrounded one particular house. Is the star guiding him? Is that the house he was looking for? Who knows? As smart as Rowlet may be, he knows that there are certain questions you will never have an answer to. So instead of finding the answer, he quickly flies as fast as he could towards the particular house. When he reached his destination, he looked back to the sky, only to find that the gold and green-colored star was gone. He scratched his head with his wings and shrugs. There are more pressing matters at hand. He proceeds to peek through the windows and searches the house. There were 4 people in there, one of them being a kid with fluffy green hair and freckles. What? It's him. Finally. With renewed vigor, he proceeds to knock on their window and cry in order to gain their attention. He hopes that he didn't accidentally scare the family or anything of the sort. After a few seconds passed, a man with a fit body type with curly black hair and freckles approaches to open the window. Rowlet saw a Primarina, Delphox, Milotic, Altaria, Blissey, and Garchomp standing close to the green-haired boy he was searching for and a brown-haired girl next to him holding a Jigglypuff in her arms. They had a frightened expression as they hid behind a green-haired woman. Oh. I must have accidentally frightened all of you. My apologies. Scaring all of you wasn't my intention. Rowlet cried apologetically. Hey there, little fella. You need food or something? The man asked gently. He held out his finger, and Rowlet immediately sits on the man's finger. Right, food. Rowlet was sure getting hungry, so he kindly takes up the offer. Yes, please. I'm quite famished from searching Izuku. Rowlet cried in response as he nods his head. He needed to do the gesture because he knows that humans don't understand Pokémon language. The man then gives him a bowl of Pokémon food, which Rowlet happily eats. He finally had his fill, but he was still a little hungry. And then he saw some of his favorite fruit. Olives. Pardon me for my manners, but I must have some of it. He cried in excitement and he immediately flies towards some olives on the dining room and proceeds to eat a few of them. Delicious. Now then, it's time that I meet you properly, Izuku Midoriya. Rowlet mused. He proceeds to fly back to the living room where the 2 children observed him attentively. He noticed that the girl still looked a little anxious and Izuku looked more bewildered rather than afraid. It pleases me to know that not every single one of your peers ridiculed you. Rowlet mused. In an attempt to calm the children and show that he is not a threat, Rowlet softens his serious expression to one of happiness. Even more so when he landed on Izuku's shoulder and nuzzles his cheek tenderly. Rowlet notices that everyone in the living room looked confused and bewildered of his action. Especially Izuku and Shaymin. On the bright side, the children weren't afraid of him anymore. Rowlet attempts strike a conversation with Shaymin, who was being held by Izuku. Rowlet knows that legendary Pokémons can speak human language. Therefore, he must speak to Shaymin first and she will clear any misunderstandings. Pardon me, but I have heard of your conversation with the boy earlier this afternoon near my nest. Rowlet began. It saddens me to know that a kind-hearted boy such as him is always ridiculed by others, all because he is quirkless and doesn't have any Pokémon to call his own. 2 things which are out of his control. Rowlet cried sympathetically. I know. He shouldn't be treated that way because of such a petty reason. There's even this Kakin kid who bullies him and his teachers refuse to take action. Shaymin agreed telepathically. Oh, about what you said that he doesn't have a Pokémon that would aid him. That's not true anymore. Shaymin responded telepathically as she shook her head. Starting today, I choose him as my trainer. Min continued. Splendid. I listened to his dream of being a hero and a trainer. Rowlet cried happily as he made one big nod. I have decided that I will help him. Alongside you and others he will befriend in the future, of course. I choose him. Rowlet declared as he puffed his chest proudly. Upon hearing his declaration, Min, Jigglypuff, and the 6 Pokémon beside the green-haired woman, all made a loud gasp. Of course, this made everyone else in the living room bewildered. Why wouldn't they be? In their point of view, Min and Rowlet was communicating with each other. Then suddenly, all of the Pokémon, excluding Rowlet, gasped loudly. Is there anything wrong, my friends? Inko asked her Pokémon worriedly. They all shook their head in response and gestured her to listen to Min. What's the matter, Jigglypuff? Ochako asked. Her Pokémon just smiled mischievously and made a gesture of zipping her mouth. She also gestured her trainer to wait and listen. Is everything okay, Min? Izuku asked. In response, Min nods her head as she smiled sweetly. Yes, my dear trainer. Rowlet here simply told me that he wants to be a part of your Pokémon team. Huh? Hearing those words froze Izuku's mind. He simply couldn't believe that he's going to befriend 2 Pokémon in just a short amount of time. It wasn't even 6 hours apart. My baby boy has 2 poke friends now. Inko exclaimed happily. This is awesome, Izuku-an. Ochako exclaimed as she tackled her best friend in a hug, snapping him out of his frozen state. Seriously? Are sure about that, little fella? Hisashi asked. In response, Rowlet simply made one big nod. My goodness, what a wonderful day. Would you like to give Rowlet and Min a nickname? Yup. That's nice, son. Have you thought of a nickname for Min? Oha. I'll name her Holly. Izuku exclaimed. Do you like it, Holly? Izuku asked as he held the Pokémon in his arms. Like it? I love it. From now on, my name is Holly. Min, or Holly exclaimed as she leans forward and booped Izuku's nose, which brought a blinding smile onto the boy's face. Oh. As for Rowlet, he likes olives and he's an owl Pokémon, so I'll call him Oliver. Izuku exclaimed. Oliver nudges his hand gently, indicating he likes the new name. Izuku's smile grew even brighter. It would make the sun seem as bright as a nightlight compared to his smile. What about you, little angel? Inko asked. I think your Jigglypuff would love a new nickname. Ochako hummed as she rubbed her chin and thought. Oh, I know. I'll call you Kirby because you're pink and round like her. Puff. Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff cried happily. And so, the night continues. Everyone properly introduced themselves to Oliver and the children and their Pokémon played a little. The night was quite eventful and surprising for everyone. But those events and surprises were welcome ones. But alas, it was almost 10 o'clock, therefore they must prepare to sleep. Even Oliver was tired. Normally he is nocturnal and active at night, but finding Izuku's house took a lot of energy. Plus, Oliver had so much fun with his new family. Before they went to bed, Izuku and Ochako took a quick bath and brushed their teeth. They changed to their pajamas and headed to Izuku's room where they will have their sleepover. Yan, would you two like to come sleep with me and Ochako-chan? Izuku sleepily asked Holly and Oliver as he rubs his eyes. Of course, my precious trainer. Holly said happily, but in a tired tone. Yes please. I'd like to sleep with you too. Oliver cried tiredly but also happily. With that, Izuku and Ochako carries their respective Pokémon and walk towards the bedroom. He proceeds to lie down on his bed as Ochako lied down next to him. Holly and Oliver then moves to Izuku's other side. Holly then curls up her body and Oliver lies his body down on the mattress as Kirby lies down next to Ochako. Good night, Ochako-chan. Good night, Izuku-an. Good night, Holly. Good night, Oliver. Izuku whispered. Sweet dreams, Izuku. Nighty-night. Before Holly and Oliver allowed sleep to take over them, they shared one similar thought. I love this family. They're my family now. Good night, Holly. Good night, Oliver. Izuku whispered. Sweet dreams, Izuku. Nighty-night. Before Holly and Oliver allowed sleep to take over them, they shared one similar thought. I love this family. They're my family now. The morning comes and the sunlight peeks through the curtain in the room. Izuku stirs awake as he felt the sunlight make contact with his face. His sudden movements also causes Ochako, Holly, and Kirby to wake up. He looks around for Oliver and finds him stretching his wings and cleaning his feathers above the cabinet. Good morning, Ochako-chan. Izuku said, smiling at her. Good morning, Izuku-an. Ochako said as she rubs her eyes sleepily. It was a Saturday morning today and Ochako's parents said they would come pick their daughter up before lunchtime, meaning they could still play after they eat breakfast. But first, they washed their face and brushed their teeth before heading towards the dining room. The meal for today's breakfast is strawberry pancakes, scrambled Blissey egg, and orange juice. Of course, Blissey didn't mind as long as her trainer's family was happy, and it was quite delicious. After they ate breakfast, Izuku, Ochako, and their Pokémon used the computer to watch some videos of the number 1 hero named All Might, including his debut video, his Pokémon team, and lastly, his days when he was still in America. All Might's debut video shows him carrying multiple civilians on his back and shoulders to save them from a burning building like it was nothing. He didn't even show any signs of exhaustion or fatigue, no matter how much civilians he carried or how many times he went back to rescue more civilians. It's fine now. Do you know why? Because I am here, All Might declared as the camera zooms into him. The second video shows All Might fighting against 4 villains while his Machamp and Cinderace fought the villains' Pokémon. The odds were against All Might because they were outnumbered, but they won regardless. The third video shows All Might rescuing a Munchlax drowning in a river, a Skitty stuck in a tree, and a Shinx trapped under some boulders. And lastly, the video shows 2 villains robbing a casino and a much younger All Might stopping said villains from crashing into some bystanders in a single punch. Fear not, citizens, everything is fine. You're safe because I am here, All Might said as he made a fearless smile. Angered, the villain used his quirk to fire missiles from his hands. With the wave of his arms and using air pressure, All Might blew the missiles towards the sky, away from the bystanders and buildings. Now afraid and bewildered, the villains wisely yet cowardly chose to escape. Thanks to the help of David Shield, All Might's former sidekick and now a famous scientist and support item engineer, they caught the villains without much casualties. Wow! All Might really is amazing, right, Ochako-chan? A starstruck Izuku asked. His bubbly best friend nods, who was just as starstruck as her cinnamon roll best friend. Holly hums approvingly. She could see why All Might deserved his title of being the number 1 hero. No wonder why Izuku idolizes you and Victini aids you from time to time. Your fearless smile tells everyone not to worry, be they human or Pokémon. Holly thought approvingly. As for Kirby and Oliver, they were speechless. They just watched in awe of the feats displayed by the number 1 hero. He saves everyone with a smile on his face. I want to be a hero just like him. Even if I'm quirkless. I know you can do it, Izuku-kun. We'll be great heroes together. Ochako said as she holds her best friend's hand, with her pinky finger extended to prevent accidentally using her quirk on his best friend. She's right, my dear trainer. Always keep up that attitude and never listen to those playground bullies who say you can't. Holly added. Yep. Ochako and I will be great heroes and trainers as long as we have you guys. Izuku said as he approached their Pokémon and gave each of them a pat on the head. The act made their Pokémon smile proudly and joyfully. Now that they finished watching videos of All Might, they decided to make drawings in a paper with some crayons. They made drawings of Pokémon to pro heroes and trainers, natural habitats such as forests, mountains, and oceans. And lastly, a drawing of themselves and their Pokémon standing side by side. Kirby floated and spun in the air with a smile on her face as she watched their drawings, thanks to Ochako's quirk, Zero Gravity. Ochako Uraraka. Quirk, Zero Gravity. It enables the user to remove the effects of gravity on a solid matter upon making contact with all 5 pads on their fingertips. The solid matter will remain weightless as long as they are within the user's weight limit. The quirk deactivates if the user presses all their fingertips together. Oliver bobbed and tilted his head to get a better look at the drawings. As for Holly, she lied down on her stomach with a content expression. Izuku asked her if he could make a drawing of her, to which she happily agreed. Izuku had almost finished drawing Holly, he couldn't wait to show it to her. All that's left is to draw the pink flower on her head, and it's done. He went to grab the pink crayon, but it slipped out of his hand and rolled towards the carpet. He walked towards the carpet and grabbed the crayon. But just as he was about to go back to his drawing, there was something that caught his eye. Something peeking out just a tiny bit under the carpet. It looked like a spinning shadowy circle. Curious, he puts the pink crayon back to its box and proceeds to lift the carpet, and it revealed a vortex swirling ever so slowly in a clockwise manner. It was shadowy and about as big as a baseball. Guys, look what I found. Izuku called out as he attempts to touch the vortex. Having gained their attention, they moved besides where he is. Kirby and Rowlet were mesmerized by the swirling vortex, but their senses told them it was dangerous. Izuku and Ochako were both mesmerized and fascinated by the sight as they shared the same thought. Is this why they say swept under the carpet? Do all carpets have this under them? Where do the swept stuff go? But Holly knew just exactly what this vortex was. It was a portal leading to the distortion world. A place that disobeys the normal laws of physics. Here, time doesn't flow normally and space is irregular. Gravity gets strong and weak randomly at some of its areas. It is the home of the renegade Pokémon Giratina. Why is it here of all places? But more importantly, she saw that Izuku was about to touch this portal. If he did, he will get transported to the distortion world. Izuku, stop! Don't touch dash, Holly tried to protest, but it was already too late. His right hand was already inside the portal. Suddenly, the vortex hummed and pulsed. Izuku tried to get his hand out, but I felt like he was being pulled by the portal. It grew bigger and bigger until it was big enough for them to go through it. Ochako and their Pokémon tried to pull Izuku away from the vortex, but the force was too strong. The vortex pulled them in slowly until Izuku's right arm was fully inside. Suddenly, it pulled all of them at once so quickly that they couldn't ask Inko for help. The portal closed itself and disappeared from the floor, leaving no evidence of it being there. 5 minutes later, Inko brought them some snacks and went to check on them. The drawings they made were there, but the children weren't in the living room. She went to check the bedrooms, the bathrooms, anywhere, but she can't find them. Oh boy, she was starting to panic and get even more worried. Did something happen to them? Were they kidnapped? Or maybe they went outside. Yeah, they probably went to the playground or something. She was just getting worried over nothing, right? In order to calm herself down, she picked up and admired their drawings. She had to admit, all their drawings, especially the one with Holly, are excellent. After she finished admiring the drawings, she proceeded to trim the bonsai above the table. They kept falling and falling until they hit the ground with a big thud, except for Oliver since he could fly. Ow! The children grimaced. They stood up and looked around, and found themselves in a bizarre place. There were buildings stacked together in a right side up then upside down pattern. There were upside down trees and roads forming loops. Is this an amusement park? But the most bizarre of all, there were floating islands and waterfalls flowing towards the sky instead of the ground. Come to think of it, is that even the sky above them? There were clearly clouds below them, but above them was the night sky and stars. This is definitely not an amusement park, but this place is just as amazing if not more. Holly, do you know where we are? Izuku asked. Yes, I do. This place is called the Distortion World. It is completely opposite from our world. Gravity is unstable, therefore time and space isn't stable here. Holly answered. What does that mean? Ochako asked. It means that you can walk on walls or upside down without falling. Also, some boulders will appear or disappear if you approach them. Holly explained. To demonstrate, she approaches a nearby plant that looks like a giant kelp. As she extends one of her front leg, the plant suddenly disappears from the ground. She pulls back her leg and the same plant suddenly reappears. The children were amazed, so they raced towards some boulders and plants. They watched in awe the objects disappeared and reappeared whenever they extended or pulled their arm back. They rushed towards some floating islands to see if they could walk sideways and upside down. Hesitantly, Izuku puts his leg towards the wall. He puts his other leg and closes his eyes, afraid of falling back to the ground. But nothing happened. He didn't fall to the ground, so he tries walking and then proceeds to run on the wall. Suddenly, Izuku gets an idea. He remembers about a comic book superhero called Spider-Man, thus he crawls on the wall and imitates him. This is so cool. I'm like Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Ochako ran in a road forming a series of loops. Wow! I can run upside down. Be careful now. We don't want you getting hurt, do we? Holly warned as she and her fellow Pokémon watched their trainers play and have fun. The Distortion World isn't an amusement park or a playground. But they sure do make this place look like one. Holly beamed. This place made me feel scared at first. But watching them have fun doesn't make me feel scared of this place. Kirby giggled. Yeah, just look at them. It makes me want to have fun too. Oliver agreed. He proceeds to fly and execute some stunts including loops, barrel rolls, and dives. Suddenly, Izuku remembers that they have to go home. He didn't want to make mom or dad worry. He knows that his best friend doesn't want to make her parents either. Holly, do you know how we can go home? Izuku asked. Of course, I do. I can open a portal back to our world using the move Seed Flare. I can use it independently when I'm level 100 by absorbing toxins, but I'm currently level 37. Holly answered. Since I can't use it independently, we have to find an area filled with thick miasma and force the toxins into my body to use Seed Flare. Holly added. Oliver, can you find us some area filled with thick miasma? Holly asked. With a nod, Oliver takes flight and searches for some thick miasma. After 3 minutes, Oliver comes back and points his wing towards a certain direction. Well done, Oliver. You have my thanks. Holly thanked Oliver. It was my pleasure to help you. Rolette cried. Izuku picks him up and cradles Oliver in his arms. You must be tired, Oliver. Just rest here in my arms, okay? Oliver hums contently and melts into his trainer's arms. They ventured towards the direction pointed by Oliver. They walked, and walked until all of a sudden, the atmosphere gets heavier. The pebbles floated. And the waterfall stopped moving. The sky gets darker and the floating islands began shaking as the nearby buildings and trees were bent by an invisible force. Moments later, something that would fuel children's nightmares, a being scarier than the monster under their bed and boogeyman, appeared in front of them. This being had a large and long gray-colored body that looked like a dragon. Its head had a gold crown-like object surrounding it with 2 large horns pointing backwards. There were also 6 gold half-rings on its long neck and 6 black ghostly wings with red spikes on its tip. The being also had 6 gold spikes on its abdomen and 4 gold spike at the tip of its tail. Giratina, the renegade Pokémon and master of gravity, has appeared. Everyone, except for Holly, who was a legendary Pokémon like Giratina, was frightened when the renegade Pokémon made an appearance. Before they knew it, they were all brought down to their knees. Whether it was from the Pokémon's stare or the gravitational force, they didn't know. They shivered in fear as Giratina stared at them with its red eyes. Its eyes pierced every fiber of their being. They could only hear silence until Giratina spoke. Its voice was deep and powerful. It reminded them of an old man with great authority. However, hearing Giratina speak shook their soul. You shouldn't be here, children. Why did you enter the distortion world, the residence of the almighty Giratina? It demanded. Do you conspire to battle me in my transcendent for me with your pitiful Pokémon of the physical domain? I am not one to be trifled with, children. Giratina asked. This realm is at the control of my limitless will. Here, I am undefeatable. Giratina threatened. I will only give you this one chance. Leave. Go back to your domain. If you do so, I shall overlook this foolishness of trespassing through my realm and attempting to battle me. Giratina ordered. Calm yourself, Giratina. These children doesn't wish to fight you. Holly defended. Oh? Fancy meeting you here, Shamin. Why do you protect them so much? Giratina demanded. As Giratina made notice of Holly, the atmosphere gets thinner and the floating island stopped shaking. An indication that the renegade Pokémon has calmed down. My name is Holly. These children are young and innocent. Holly answered. They haven't been corrupted by violence, you needn't bring harm to them. Holly? Giratina asked. Wait, don't tell me that you allowed a human child to give you a nickname. Bwahahaha. Giratina mocked. As a matter of fact, I did. Ha 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 ha. Oh my. But I thought you hated humans? Ha ha. Heh. Giratina laughed. Yes, I did. But meeting and befriending these children has led me to regain my hope to humanity. Holly explained. Is that so? Just what makes these children so special? Giratina asked. Holly clears her throat and gestures towards Izuku. Ahem. This precious boy here is the one Arceus told us about. I have also personally chosen him to be my trainer. Introducing. The chosen one. After that, Holly gestures towards Ochako. This little cutie over here is his best friend. She is just as precious as my dear trainer if I do say so myself. Have you lost your mind? Giratina asked. Chosen one or not, this boy is still one of those violent beings called humans. Giratina roared angrily. He may not be influenced by their violent ways for now, but he surely live by the ways of violence as he grows up. The children and their Pokémon embraced each other as they embraced each other in fright. Once more, the floating islands begin shaking violently and the atmosphere gets thicker. Giratina was definitely angry. What should they do? After all, how can one small child change all of humanity? Now leave. I do not want the presence of filthy humans in my realm. Giratina demanded angrily. To be continued. Ha 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 ha. Oh my. But I thought you hated humans? Ha ha. Heh. Giratina laughed. Yes, I did. But meeting and befriending these children has led me to regain my hope to humanity. Holly explained. Is that so? Just what makes these children so special? Giratina asked. Holly clears her throat and gestures towards Izuku. Ahem. This precious boy here is the one Arceus told us about. I have also personally chosen him to be my trainer. Introducing. The chosen one. After that, Holly gestures towards Ochako. This little cutie over here is his best friend. She is just as precious as my dear trainer if I do say so myself. Have you lost your mind? Giratina asked. Chosen one or not, this boy is still one of those violent beings called humans. Giratina roared angrily. He may not be influenced by their violent ways for now, but he surely live by the ways of violence as he grows up. The children and their Pokémon embraced each other as they embraced each other in fright. Once more, the floating islands begin shaking violently and the atmosphere gets thicker. Giratina was definitely angry. What should they do? After all, how can one small child change all of humanity? Now leave. I do not want the presence of filthy humans in my realm. Giratina demanded angrily. If you don't, I will make you leave by force so you can never return. Giratina threatens as he spreads his ghostly wings and prepares one will-o-wisp. Should they just run away? Should they battle Giratina? No. Silly Izuku, he never even tried to have a Pokémon battle before. If you dare to harm even a strand of their hair, then I will fight you myself. Holly warned. You must have really lost your mind, Shaymin. Have you forgotten which one of us is more powerful? Giratina replied. I haven't. But if this is what I have to do in order to protect him, then I will do it. Holly answered. Your efforts will be in vain. No, Holly is gonna get hurt. They'll both hurt each other. What should he do? Think. Wait. Giratina said this world was his home and they entered without permission, therefore they should apologize. Stop! Izuku shouts as he stands in front of both Pokémon with his hands outstretched. Izuku turns to Giratina and proceeds to apologize. I am sorry, please don't fight. It's my fault for coming here without asking. This made Giratina amused. He expected them to run away, foolishly challenge him, or kneel to the ground as they begged for mercy. Interesting. Then I'll ask you again, child. Why and how did you come here? I was making some arts with Ochako, but my crayon rolled near the carpet. But then I saw a weird portal under the carpet. Please don't hurt me. It's true. We don't want to fight you. What? There was a portal to the distortion world under your carpet? Go on, tell me more. Bewildering as it may be, it also made Giratina intrigued. Giratina rarely ever observes the human world anymore ever since they manifested quirks. Therefore, he never leaves portals leading to the distortion world. So how? And why? Oh okay. I was curious when I saw your portal, so I put my hand inside it. But we fell through the portal and now we're stuck here. I see. So you are not one of those foolish mortals who wants to challenge me and prove their worth. Coming here was just an accident on your part. Giratina concluded. Giratina turns towards Holly and asks. Why didn't you just use your seed flare to back? Doing so would have spared all of us a lot of trouble. I'm still level 37, therefore I can't use it independently. We were heading towards some miasma that Oliver found. That is until you showed up. Holly answered. Understandable, but he has still yet to know why there was a portal under the carpet. The only way humans can open those portals is the help of the Griseous Orb. And the only Pokémon who are capable of opening portals to the distortion world is Giratina and his creator, Arceus. He will have to talk to him later, but for now, you needn't be scared anymore, child. What is your name? He asked. I'm Izuku Midoriya. And I'm Ochako Uraraka. I see. I shall remember your names. Well then, Izuku and Ochako. You should go back to your domain. The distortion world is not a place suited for children such as you. Giratina instructs the children as he opens a portal back to the real world. Thank you. You look like you want to say something. What is it, child? Giratina asked. When we were trying to get out of here, I didn't see other people or Pokémon. Izuku answered. That's because I am the only inhabitant of the distortion world. Giratina responds. You must be super lonely in here. Can we visit you sometime? We had so much fun here. Next time, I'll even bring you some Poke Puffs. There's no need for the, wait, did you say Poke Puffs? Giratina asked, to which Izuku nodded. Very well. Take this orb. Whenever you wish to come here, hold this orb in front of you and think about me. A portal shall appear in front of you. Said Giratina as he hands Izuku a glowing yellow orb. It was the Griseous Orb. Thank you, Giratina. Izuku thanks the renegade Pokémon as he puts the Griseous Orb in his pocket. It's Giratina? And I am not a girl. Giratina corrects Izuku. Jira, Tuna. Wa. Sai, I see that you can't pronounce words properly. After all, you are merely a 4-year-old child. Giratina deduced. Oh, I have an idea. Why don't you give Giratina a nickname? Holly suggested. Do you mock me, Holly? Such insolent dash, Giratina demanded. However, he was cut off by Izuku before he had a chance to finish his sentence. Gasp. That's a great idea, Holly. Izuku agreed with Holly. Can we call you Girikuin? Pleasey? Izuku and Ochako asked with pleading eyes. Giratina became speechless. Kirby and Oliver snickered, while Holly giggled loudly as if she was making fun of him. Why wouldn't she? Giratina, who's almighty and terrifying according to himself, gets a cute nickname. If I may ask, why on Arceus' judgment would you call me that name? Giratina demanded. He felt somewhat insulted. So you're less scary. And you said that you're not a girl, so you're a boy. They both answered as if it was the most obvious thing to them. However, both children made a smile as bright as the sun. Their pleading eyes also made it hard for him to say no. I do not like bright things. But you two are exceptions. Sai, have it your way, then. Yay. Well, you two should go home now. Your parents must be worried. Right. Mom and Dad, and Ochako's parents must be super worried. But before walking towards the portal, they embraced Giratina with their hands that were too small to fully embrace his large serpentine body. See you later, Giri-kun. Ochako and Izuku waved goodbye as they and their Pokémon jumped to the portal back to their own world. Giratina, however, felt different when the children embraced him. It was different from when he interacted with other humans. It reminded him of his old trainer from Hokkaido whom he met when he dragged a madman named Cyrus to the distortion world. There was also the time when he was still newly born from Arceus. He and his brothers would play in the vastness of space as their father watched over them. What could this feeling be? All the renegade Pokémon knew that he hadn't felt this way for 100 years. He dismissed those thoughts for later. There were currently more pressing matters at hand, such as the mystery of the portal under the carpet. He will get his answers from his dear old father. Thus, he opened up a portal leading to a place beyond time and space. It's almost 6 p.m., Hisashi. We still haven't found them. What if they were kidnapped? Inko whimpered worriedly. No. Don't say that. The cops are looking for them and Charizard is flying around the city. They should dash. Hisashi tried to comfort his wife, but he was cut off by high-pitched noise. A shadowy portal begins to form on the wall of the Midoriya apartment as the noise gets louder. From the shadowy portal, two small silhouettes emerged. It was Izuku and Ochako, safe and unharmed, as they carried their respective Pokémon. Mom! Dad! The children yelled as they rushed to embrace their parents with a bright smile on their face. Where have you guys been? We were so worried. Inko and Ochako's mother asked. Mama, please don't cry. I'm sorry I worried you. Izuku apologized. We're not mad, Iken. We're just happy you and Ochako are back safe and sound. Inko assures her son as she embraced him tenderly. Mind filling me in on what happened while you guys were gone? Hisashi asked Holly. Certainly, we were. And so, Holly told of the parents of how they ended up in the distortion world, how the children played there for a while and met Giratina, and the Griseous orb they were given. The parents listened intently until they all heard wings flapping and loud footsteps. It was Hisashi's Charizard, walking towards his trainer with a defeated expression as he couldn't find Izuku and Ochako anywhere in the city. That is, until he sees the children safe and sound with their parents. Upon seeing them, Charizard embraces them and roars happily. Meanwhile, elsewhere? You ancient fool! Why did you do that? Giratina demanded. He fires one Will-O-Wisp towards a large white quadrupedal Pokémon with a dark gray underside. It had green and red eyes, gold-tipped head and feet, and a 4 jewels attached to a gold cross-like wheel on its abdomen. This is Arceus, the alpha Pokémon and the creator of the universe. He notices Giratina's Will-O-Wisp, thus he uses the power of his plates to change his type and render Giratina's attack useless. I'm afraid I do not know what you are referring to, my child. Arceus answered. You're the one who opened a portal to my realm in that child's house, didn't you? Giratina demanded again. Yes, that is correct. Arceus answered. Why? Giratina demanded. Because of your hatred towards humans. Arceus answered. If you knew that, then why would you let not one, but 2 snot-nosed children come to the distortion world, you ancient fool? Giratina argued. You needed to see for yourself that not all of them are violent beings, especially villains and most trainers these days. Arceus replied. They might accidentally hurt themselves there, or get killed by me. Giratina yelled. I would have interfered had you tried to kill them. Besides, when they embraced you before they bid farewell, it reminded your old trainer, did it not? Arceus explained. Giratina remained silent. Now then, I suggest you go back to your world, my child. Arceus suggested. With the glow of Arceus' eyes, a portal back to the distortion world opens in front of Giratina. Giratina disappears to the portal, leaving Arceus alone in the Hall of Origins and waits for Izuku to come visit him in the distortion world. It was a Sunday morning and Izuku Midoriya sat in the living room, enjoying the peace and tranquility. He can't play with Ochako today since she and her family was out of town. They had some business in their former residence at Mei Prefecture. Closing his eyes, he could hear the cries of different bug-type and chirps of bird-type Pokémon nearby. Holly lied down on his lap whilst Oliver was being petted by him. Guys? What should we do? I'm worried. Izuku asked his friends. His grass quill Pokémon shrugs his wings, while Holly hums in thought. Why don't we make poke puffs? The ones you made were delicious and I'd like to eat them again sometime. Holly answered eagerly. But Mama said I can only make them if there's an adult watching me, and both Mama and Papa said they'll have a Pokémon battle. Izuku replied. Today was his father's day off. One of the married couple's bonding moments was having friendly Pokémon battles. Holly and Oliver would probably want to see what Mama and Papa were like when they battle. Hey, do you two want to watch them? They have super strong Pokémon. We can make poke puffs after that if you want, Izuku suggested. Having their interest piqued and without anything better to do, they agreed with their trainer's suggestion. Sure. I'm curious on how a saintly woman such as Inko would approach intense Pokémon battles. Holly replied. Oliver flies to his trainer's shoulders, while Holly hops to his green bushy hair. Izuku's hair was big enough to hide her if she curls to hide her head and feet. Izuku then walks outside the Midoriya apartment, where his Mama and Papa each stood at the opposite end of a vacant space. They both had a warm smile on their faces, yet their gaze was full of intensity. Good luck, dear, said Inko. You too, darling, Hisashi replied. Because you're gonna lose this time, the married couple said in unison while having a warm smile, which was a little unnerving for Holly and Oliver. Throwing a Pokeball into the air, Inko summons her first Pokémon, Primarina. A Pokémon that resembled a sea lion and a mermaid with bright blue eyes, thick eyelashes, and a long ponytail tied by 2 strings of pearl. Hisashi does the same, summoning Luxray. A Pokémon resembling a fully grown lion with shaggy black and blue fur. Its sharp eyes had yellow pupils and red sclera. Thrilled and amused, Izuku and his poke friends moved closer to get a better view while staying at a safe distance. The young trainer's mind was figuring out all the possibilities. Judging by the Pokémon typing, Papa and Luxray, who's an electric type, had an advantage over Mama and Primarina, who's a fairy water type. Luxray was also faster, thus he can attack first. Let's start by using Throat Chop, Hisashi commands. Luxray did as he was told, charging towards Primarina in order to strike her throat. With the Throat Chop from her foe, Primarina won't be able to use sound-based moves such as Sparkling Aria. However, Throat Chop was a dark-type move, so it did not deal much damage to Primarina. Use Draining Kiss, Inko orders Primarina. With her move, she damages Luxray and regains some of her own health points. Luxray, use Thunderfang, Hisashi ordered. On command, Luxray's fangs glowed and sparked with electricity. He charges forward and bites Primarina, who cries in pain. Being a water type, the Thunderfang was super effective, dealing a significant amount of damage. To retaliate, Inko orders Primarina to use Hydro Pump, a powerful water-type attack that blasts the target with a huge volume of water. The move hits Luxray, thus he gets knocked back to a nearby tree. Hisashi immediately rushes by Luxray's side, checking to see how much his Pokémon was hurt. Are you alright, buddy? Hisashi asked. His Pokémon gets up and nods while facing his trainer. Are you sure? You can switch out if you want, Hisashi suggested, to which Luxray gestures towards Primarina with a determined gaze. You wanna fight? Hisashi asked once more while Luxray nods. Alright, then. Use Thunderbolt, Hisashi ordered. Primarina, use Moonblast, Inko commands. Luxray fires a strong electrical blast directed towards Primarina. Drawing powers from the moon, Primarina fires the attack directed to her foe. Both attacks hit their marks, leaving both Primarina significantly weakened and Luxray weakened to a lesser extent. Both contestants knew that the next move is the last move their Pokémon will make. Thus, they command each of their Pokémon to use the strongest move in their current arsenal. Giga Impact for Luxray, and Hydro Pump for Primarina. Primarina fires another blast of water directed towards Luxray, while the latter powers through the Hydro Pump with every bit of his power to strike Primarina. With both moves hitting their targets, both Pokémon fainted and were summoned back to their Pokeball. Izuku and his poke friends were charmed and inspired as they watched the spectacle in front of them. Izuku would never get tired of watching his parents battle no matter how many times he saw it. Mama, Papa, and their Pokémon are all so amazing. Holly was stunned that a simple loving housewife Inko could also be a competitive trainer. As for Oliver, he couldn't wait to reach his final evolution and be strong to help Izuku. They were already awestruck, but they have yet to see more. The Pokémon battle lasted for about 2 hours. Hisashi sends out Chestnut, while Inko sends out Delphox. Due to the type advantage, Delphox defeats Chestnut, although the latter's attacks left her damaged. Next, Hisashi sends out Staraptor. Delphox mostly had long-range attacks, thus Staraptor dodged her long-range attacks with his speed and used close-range attacks to defeat Delphox. Inko sends out Altaria, where she and Staraptor had a battle that took place high in the skies, sending gusts of wind to everyone in the ground. They both ended in a tie. Next, Inko sends out Milotic while Hisashi sends out Lapras. Both Pokémon almost had the same moves, except Milotic's Hyper Beam and Lapra's Megahorn. They fired Hydro Pumps and Ice Beams toward each other, and clashed each other with Surf. "Please use Hyper Beam," Inko orders. Her Pokémon obeys and fires a powerful beam from her mouth, but she must rest on the next turn. Lapras survives the attack, and uses Megahorn to attack. Because Milotic had to rest, Lapras was able to use Megahorn twice, fainting his opponent. Inko sends out Garchomp, who roared at his opponent. He was way faster than Lapras and the latter was severely weakened from his previous fight. Thus, Garchomp uses Dig to attack Lapras, who faints without landing a hit to his opponent. Hisashi sends out Charizard, who roared and spewed flames out of his mouth while Garchomp roared back. Both Pokémon gazed at each other intensely. Sweat was starting to form in their trainers' foreheads. Inko and Hisashi each had only 2 Pokémon left. To be precise, Inko still had her Blissey while Hisashi had Alakazam. But still, the outcome of this current battle would decide who wins or loses overall. They breathed deeply and met each other's gaze. "I think it's about time we get serious. Don't you agree, dear?" Inko asked. "How strange. I was just about to ask you the same thing, darling." Hisashi replied. "Here it comes. They're gonna do the thing." Izuku yells eagerly. Perplexed, Oliver looks at his trainer while tilting his head. As for Holly, who peeks out of his hair, she decides to ask her trainer about it. "What thing are you talking about, dear trainer?" Before she could get her answers, she notices Inko and Hisashi pulling out something from their pocket. It looked like a small rainbow-colored pearl with a strange symbol that resembled a DNA helix. This item is called the Key Stone. A stone filled with untold power that allows a Pokémon to mega-evolve in battle if they hold a Mega Stone. The married couple raised both of their key stones up high, and it begins to glow. Rainbow-colored lights began to cover Charizard and Garchomp while multiple gusts of wind were sent around the area. The lights dimmed until it resembled the same DNA helix symbol in the key stone before fading away. The Mega Evolution. Izuku and his parents yelled in unison. Charizard's hide turned black while his wings and underside became blue. The flames on his tail were now blue and he spews blue flames on the sides of his mouth. Garchamp's abdomen now had a row of 5 tooth-like spikes on each side of his abdomen. The claws in his arms were now red sharp scythe-like fins. Both Pokémon roared viciously at their opponents. Oliver was so glad that he met and became a member of Izuku's family. He was able to see so many spectacular things today. He couldn't wait for the day when he, Izuku, and his teammates were as cool as his trainer's parents and their Pokémon team. Holly couldn't believe that Inko was actually such a strong trainer. It made her curious on what her trainer's mother and father were like when they were younger. She closed her eyes, imagining Izuku 10 years older with his team of poke friends. Izuku eagerly watched and waited for his parents' next move. They were almost as cool as All Might. Maybe Mama and Papa will help him train to get stronger along with Holly and Oliver. They focused back to the spectacle in front of them when they heard Charizard and Garchomp's roar. The combatants approached each other slowly. Each step gradually became faster and faster until they charged with full speed. Using Fire Fist, blue flames danced around Charizard's fist. Garchomp uses Dragon Rush, surrounding himself in a light blue-colored energy that took the shape of a dragon's head. Both of the attacks connected, producing a massive gust of wind that almost blew away Izuku if he didn't hide behind a nearby tree in time. Garchomp's Dragon Rush did a significant amount of damage on Charizard since it was super effective compared to the latter's Fire Punch. Using Fire Blast, Charizard breathes out flames that resembled the kanji for fire. The flames were so hot that Izuku felt the heat from behind the tree. Garchomp manages to avoid a direct hit from his opponent's attack using Dig. However, he could still feel the heat as he wasn't very deep underground. Thus, Garchomp still took some damage. Everyone nearby felt the ground shaking because of Garchomp using the move Earthquake. He controlled the ground's shakes and movements to avoid any collateral damage and so that Earthquake would only hit his opponent. Charizard knew what his opponent was planning to do the moment he hit underground. Thus, he flies up high into the sky to avoid the fissures rapidly approaching him. Garchomp pops out of the ground, following after Charizard. High above the sky, both combatants stared down at each other, refusing to back down. After a moment of stare down, Charizard and Garchomp looked at their own trainers, who also looked at them. The trainers were allowing their Pokémon to fight freely as they wish up until now. They were silently ordering their Pokémon to finish the battle with Dragon Claw. Of course, the Pokémon understood their trainer's order. With both of them nodding to acknowledge the command, Charizard's claws and Garchamp's fins were now covered by green misty energy. Thus, they charged at each other. Meanwhile, Holly was talking to Oliver telepathically. Amazing! It seems that Inko and Hisashi allowed their Pokémon to fight each other freely. They don't even need their trainer's commands in order to fight properly. Holly telepathically deduced to Oliver. Yeah. Their bond between a Pokémon and a trainer is so strong that they don't need to communicate verbally. Oliver cried in agreement. Do you think we will be as strong as them soon? No. I don't think so. Why? Don't you believe in our trainer? Oliver asked sadly. He really hoped that he misheard Holly. What happened to her resolve of helping Izuku be the very best trainer and the greatest hero? Because I think Izuku and our team will be even greater and stronger than them. Holly replied. Gosh dang it, Holly. Were you trying to trick me when I asked you? Oliver deadpanned. Maybe? Holly chuckled and stuck her tongue out. Well, I'm not gonna lie that you tricked me there. Oliver admits and chuckles. With that, they focused their attention back to the fighters. They slashed and struck each other while they dodged and blocked each other's attacks. Every move they made sent small gusts of winds. To the spectators below, the Pokémon looked as if they were dancing in the sky. The fighters backed away from each other momentarily. They huffed and they puffed as they prepared to finish the fight with their next attack. Garchomp and Charizard advances towards each other, rearing back their arms and striking their foe with all the might they had. Or that's what would have happened had they not been interrupted. Hey, Inko! Hey, Hisashi! Nice to see you guys out here. A familiar woman's voice called out. Hey, Deku! A familiar young boy's voice also called out, albeit more aggressively. Hey, Inko! Hey, Hisashi! Nice to see you guys out here. A familiar woman's voice called out. Hey, Deku! A familiar young boy's voice also called out, albeit more aggressively. The woman, Mitsuki Bakugo, is Inko's best friend and mother of the young boy accompanying him. The young boy, Katsuki Bakugo, is Izuku's best friend before he developed his own quirk. Walking beside him was his starter Pokémon, Cyndaquil. Mitsuki felt bad and wanted to blame herself for how her son had turned out. If her son remembered how he used to be friends with Izuku, maybe her son would return to the confident yet kind boy that he once was, not the bully he is now. Thus, she decided to set up a playdate for Iken and Katsuki. Or at least, that was her plan. The Midoriya family had been too caught up in their Pokémon battle that they might have forgotten about the playdate today. While the adults had their own talk, Katsuki angrily stomped his way to Izuku, who fearfully backed away. The explosive boy's attention was far from the playdate. No, he needed to know about the roulette being held by Deku. Charizard and Garchomp's eyes twitched in annoyance and a little bit of anger. Not only was their battle interrupted, but Mrs. Bakugo's son would ridicule their adorable little Izuku. Looking at each other in the eyes, they decided to stop their fight and keep an eye on Katsuki. For they would intervene if the boy would dare to hurt Izuku. Stupid Deku! Whose Pokémon is that? Katsuki demanded angrily. There's no way that the roulette being held by Deku is his. No Pokémon, not even Magikarp, will ever choose him. How dare you talk to Izuku like that, you explosive boy? Oliver glared at the explosive boy in question. Eek! K. Kaken. T. This is Oliver. H. He's my friend. Izuku replied. Oliver? Is that a nickname? Ha ha ha. You're so lame, Deku. Katsuki mocked. Kaken? So you're that arrogant boy who's been picking on my dear trainer? I don't approve of you staying within 20 meters around Izuku. Holly peeks out of Izuku's hair while staying out of Kaken's sights. Who knows what he'll do to Izuku if he found out Izuku not only met, but also befriended one of the legendaries. But still, how can one young boy have such violent behavior for his age? Was he one of those children that were blessed with powerful quirks and chosen by strong starter Pokémon? Most of those children became blinded by their own power. Holly knew that society was the cause of children becoming like this. It glorified those who are powerful like this Kaken, and took advantage of the weak and helpless like Izuku. Wait, did you say he's your Pokémon? You're lying. Why would it choose you? You're quirkless. Katsuki demanded. There were small firecracker-sized explosions in his palms, an indication that he is more angry than he usually is. It's true. I'm not lying. Izuku answered. He always gets more terrified when Kaken made small explosions, since it always led to the explosive boy beating up or using his quirk on Izuku. Looking at the frightened boy's vibrant emerald eyes, Katsuki could tell that Izuku wasn't lying. Huh? Does that mean you actually have a quirk? Were you just lying to me about being quirkless? Katsuki demanded yet again as he moved closer to Izuku, who could only back away in fear. Having enough of Izuku backing off, he went to grab the collar of Izuku's shirt. But then, he felt something pecking and pulling on his hair. It was Oliver, having enough of Katsuki's shouting and ridicule on his trainer. Get out of my way, you stupid bird! Katsuki retaliated by detonating an explosion right in front of the owl-like Pokemon's face, who gets knocked down to the ground a few feet away from the arrogant child. No! Oliver! Izuku immediately rushes by his Pokemon side. Thus, Cyndaquil tries to tackle Izuku away from his Pokemon. Oh no! They're gonna hurt Izuku again and Holly will fall from Izuku's hair. They'll find out about her and Katsuki will try to take her away from Izuku. Fortunately, it did not happen. From above the skies, Charizard and Garchomp descends right in front of Izuku and Oliver. Both Pokemon stood defensively and roared angrily at the explosive boy, warning him not to come any closer. Katsuki and Cyndaquil backed away in fear. They were stronger than most, but they were still too young to fight Charizard, or Garchomp, or both of them at the same time. All of these weren't unnoticed by the adults. Looking at the Rowlet covered in dust whilst being cradled by a crying Izuku, Mitsuki immediately knew what happened. Hisashi and Inko orders their Pokemon to return to their respective Pokeball. They reverted out of their Mega Evolution and complied their trainer's orders. But not before they gave one menacing glare directed towards Katsuki. Katsuki! What did I tell you about hurting other people or Pokemon with your quirk? Yelled Mitsuki while dragging Katsuki away from Izuku. Shut up, old hag. I was just talking to Deku. Katsuki yelled back. I told you not to call me an old hag or call him Deku. He's your friend. Mitsuki scolded. TCH. Fine. Katsuki scoffed before turning back his attention to Izuku and Oliver. Hey nerd. I challenge you to a Pokemon battle. Huh? What? Izuku could hardly believe what he heard. At the very least, he knows the basics of Pokemon battles since he often watched Mama and Papa's Pokemon battles, but he has never been in one himself. Will Oliver be able to battle? What moves does he know? What if he gets hurt badly? Will Holly have to battle? No, of course not. There will be a lot of people who will come after her and there will be trouble if they know about her. Only friends he can trust must be the only one who knows about her, like Ochako-chan. He was pulled out his thoughts when Kaken spoke again. You heard me, nerd. I challenge you. Even if you have a Pokemon, you're still weak. It was the only way Katsuki knew on how he could show Izuku his place without being scolded by the old hag, Auntie Inko, or Uncle Hisashi. I'll show you that you'll never be a Pokemon trainer or a hero. No. I am not weak and helpless. Izuku denied. Mama, Papa, and my friends will help me. Oliver looked at his trainer with a determined gaze, for he wanted to prove right here and now that he can help Izuku reach his dream. Holly and his parents were proud that their adorable little Izuku stood up for himself. I accept your challenge, Kaken. TCH. You're just acting brave, but you're actually scared. Katsuki growled. Cyndaquil, use tackle. Katsuki orders his Pokemon, who complies and damages Oliver. Oliver was already hurt from Katsuki's previous explosion, and he was a grass type while Cyndaquil was a fire type. He would have to be very careful to not get hit by one of Cyndaquil's attacks. Izuku remembers the previous fight of Delphox and Staraptor. Basically, Staraptor stayed high up in the sky to avoid Delphox's long-range attacks and used quick close-range attacks using his speed. Thus, Izuku uses the same strategy. Oh Oliver, please fly up to dodge. Izuku orders. Obeying his trainer's orders, Rowlet flies up high and manages to avoid Cyndaquil's tackle. Grr. Cyndaquil, use Ember. Cyndaquil breathes out small flames directed towards Oliver, who simply moved out of the way to make the attack miss. I don't know what other moves you can use. Izuku murmured. Oliver dives from the sky while his beak began to glow. Using the move Peck, Oliver jabs Cyndaquil with his beak, landing a critical hit. Oh. You can use Peck. What else? Izuku asked. Oliver looks at his trainer as his wings began to glow green. Cyndaquil stands back up and grits his teeth. With the flap of his wings, Oliver uses leafage to open fire his feather quills towards his opponent. Use smokescreen. Katsuki ordered. Cyndaquil puffs out a cloud of black smoke from his mouth in an attempt to make leafage miss. Oliver grits his teeth as his attack missed, but Izuku tells him not to worry. Don't worry about it, Oliver. Just because you missed, doesn't mean we lost. Izuku smiled towards his poke friend, who smiles back with an even more determined gaze and flies into the air again. The other trainers I've seen would blame their Pokemon if their attack missed. You, however. He. If only there were more humans like you. Holly thought approvingly. Use Ember. Katsuki yelled. Cyndaquil's blaze activated, making his flames burn bigger and hotter. He breathes out bigger and hotter embers, which Oliver dodges again. However, some of the embers hit his wing while he dodged. Oliver. Are you okay? Izuku asked worriedly, to which Oliver nods. Alright, now use leafage. Oliver complies, while Cyndaquil tries to avoid them. Some of the feather quills missed and it was not very effective, thus the damage it dealt wasn't significant. Please use Peck again. Oliver's beak began to glow and he dived towards Cyndaquil once more. Ember, now. Cyndaquil breathes out small flames yet again, while Oliver narrowly dodges the ember. He successfully lands the attack as a critical hit once again, while Cyndaquil gets knocked back. Cyndaquil tries to stand up, but he falls to the ground and faints. The battle is over. Yay! We win! You're so awesome, Oliver. Izuku cheers. Oliver lands back to the ground and puffs his chest proudly as his trainer giggled and embraced him. What? How did stupid Deku beat me? Katsuki shouts as he went to pick up his fainted Pokémon. Katsuki! Mitsuki yelled. Gur! This isn't over yet, nerd. You won't beat me next time. With that, Katsuki stomps his way home with Mitsuki, who was now carrying a Blissey egg, following after her son and waving goodbye to the Midoriya family. A few moments ago? I don't know what to do, Inko. I wanted to raise him as a confident boy. I didn't want him to be an arrogant JRK at such a young age. Mitsuki whimpered. Don't beat up yourself about it, Mitsuki. You just have to make him understand that his actions have consequences. Inko replied. Yeah. Your kid says he wants to be a hero, right? Tell him that heroes don't hurt innocent people. Hisashi agreed. I've been telling him that. But it's like he forgot what kindness is. Mitsuki replied. It was at this moment that Blissey came out of her Pokeball. She tries to cheer up Mitsuki by giving her egg to the mother. Thanks, but why were you giving me this? Mitsuki asked. Bliss Blissey bliss. Blissey made several gesture of eating and pointing towards Katsuki. No, she did not want to eat the boy. Rather she wanted him to eat her egg. That's a great idea, Blissey. Hisashi and Inko said. You lost me. What's her great idea? Mitsuki asked in confusion. She wants you to feed her egg to your son. Hisashi replied. Why? Her eggs are filled with happiness. She thinks that if Katsuki eats it, he will be kind to everyone. Inko answered. Mitsuki's eyes widened. This is it. Her prayers to Arceus have been answered. Maybe Katsuki will be a good boy again. Thanks, but her eggs are expensive, right? I still gotta pay you guys somehow. That won't be necessary. Just raise him to be a good boy, Mitsuki. It's enough for us. Meanwhile, elsewhere, four godly Pokémon watched the events unfold. The three stood by their father and the creator of the universe. Even with all the kindness and happiness inside Blissey's egg, that alone cannot turn that boy into a compassionate human. Said the Master of Space, Palkia. To think that he wants to be a hero. He cannot be one with that kind of attitude no matter how many eons pass. Said the Master of Time, Dialga. Quite saddening indeed. They would have been great friends. But even though he may be arrogant, the child is still young and susceptible to change. Said the creator, Arceus. Why couldn't you have made that violent child be kind from the very beginning, you ancient fool? Then Izuku wouldn't have to experience any of that boy's arrogance. Demanded the Master of Gravity, Giratina. He was but blessed by a powerful quirk and chosen by a strong companion, his fellow men glorified him, telling him he could do no failure. Alas, he succumbed to his pride and ego at such a young age. Arceus replied. Only Izuku Midoriya's actions may change the way his old friend thinks. Chuckle, I cannot wait to see what you will do, chosen one. Yay! We win! You're so awesome, Oliver. Izuku cheers. Oliver lands back to the ground and puffs his chest proudly as his trainer giggled and embraced him. What? How did stupid Deku beat me? Katsuki shouts as he went to pick up his fainted Pokémon. Katsuki! Mitsuki yelled. Gur! This isn't over yet, nerd. You won't beat me next time. With that, Katsuki stomps his way home with Mitsuki, who was now carrying a Blissey egg, following after her son and waving goodbye to the Midoriya family. You did a good job showing him that you aren't weak. Well done, my dear trainer. You too, Oliver. You won despite your opponent's advantage. Holly congratulated. My baby boy won his first Pokémon battle. I'm so proud of you. Inko embraced her son. Mum, I'm not a baby anymore. Izuku whined and pouted. No. Until you get a sibling or get married, you're still my baby. The mother argued and embraced her son harder. Finini. Izuku gave in, for it was useless to argue with his mother. You did great out there, son. Hisashi ruffled his son's hair while being careful not to accidentally hurt Holly. You too, Oliver. Hisashi pats the Grassquill Pokémon, who flinches upon the contact. You must be pretty hurt badly. Come on, let's get you healed up. With that, Hisashi carries Oliver back to their apartment to give the Pokémon some necessary medical treatment. Mom, can we make some poke puffs? I promised Girikuin to give him some. Who's Giri? Oh, right. Giratina. You promised him, didn't you? Alright, let's go then. The mother, son, and Holly walks back to the kitchen inside to the Midoriya apartment. They prepared the necessary ingredients for a poke puff and its toppings. They wore their aprons and prepared 5 separate bowls for each batter. Inko puts the ingredients in the bowl for each flavor: sweet, mint, citrus, spice, and mocha. They mixed the bowls for a few minutes. There. Now that the batter is all mixed up, they need to be baked. Using a butter, Inko greases the cupcake pan and pours the batter in after a few seconds. After preheating the oven, Izuku puts the tray inside. Inko sets up a timer and they waited until the cupcakes were baked. Ding! The cupcakes were now baked. As Inko opens the oven, a cloud of steam and delicious aroma fills the kitchen. The smell alone made Holly and Oliver hungry for it. While wearing oven mitts in his hands, Izuku carefully takes out the baked cupcakes and sets them down the table. But the cupcakes still needed to be decorated with frostings and toppings. Thus, they waited for them to cool so they can be decorated. Thanks to her cooking skills, Inko's poke puffs were just flawless. The icing and toppings were perfectly proportional on her deluxe and supreme poke puffs. Izuku's frosted and fancy poke puffs were not as flawless as his mother's since he was just a child, but they were still elaborately made. Would you two like to have some? Inko offered a supreme summer puff to Holly and a supreme autumn puff to Oliver, to which they both accepted without hesitation. Yes, please. Holly answered as Oliver nods vigorously. They would have to be fools to refuse the offer to eat these perfect, aromatic, and delicious poke puffs. They slowly ate the food presented to them, savoring the flavor in each bite. Izuku's poke friends finished eating their food and Inko puts the rest of the poke puffs in a basket. Izuku takes the Griseous orb from the cabinet. I want to visit Girikuin. The green-haired boy thought as he closed his eyes and held the orb with both of his hands. Everyone else watched and paid great attention. The orb began to glow faintly with a golden and orange light and a single high-pitched noise was heard before a distortion world portal opened right in front of Izuku. With a basket of poke puff and Griseous orb in hand, Izuku and his poke friends hops through the portal. Come back before dinner, okay Iken? Inko reminds her son. I will, Mama. Izuku replies before the portal disappears. With that, Inko makes more batches of poke puffs for her and her husband's own poke puffs. In the distortion world, Girikuin waited patiently for his human friend. He, along with his father and brothers, just watched Izuku and Oliver claim their victory on their first Pokémon battle against that fiend of a child named Katsuki Bakugo. The renegade Pokémon couldn't help but feel proud of his friend. Chuckle, I believe you are not just the chosen one for nothing, little Izuku. Still, he couldn't help but worry that Izuku might become egotistical and arrogant like Katsuki due to his first victory. Like that's ever going to happen. Izuku is too kind and precious for that. But to guarantee that it doesn't happen, Giratina will make sure his friend always remembers humility, to be polite, and be compassionate. That is, assuming that the DSPLN he learned from his parents and Holly is not enough. Suddenly, there was a high-pitched noise and a small shadowy hole gradually getting bigger right in front of him. From the hole came out Izuku holding a basket followed by his poke friends. Girikuin. Izuku greeted and runs up to his legendary poke friend in order to embrace him. Greetings, Izuku. Welcome to my domain. Here. I made you some poke puffs. Mama helped me so it's really good. Izuku gives the basket to Giratina, to which he accepts eagerly. He devours the poke puffs one by one, savoring the taste of each puff. It tastes exquisite and heavenly. Thank you, little one. You're welcome. Oh, did you know? Oliver and I won our first Pokémon battle. He was so cool and amazing. Izuku informed in an energetic manner while making several gestures. Oliver puffed his chest proudly whilst Holly giggled upon seeing her trainer's antics. Yes, I watched it along with my brothers. Both of you did an astoundingly well done job. But it was unfortunate I was not in your realm to see your victory for myself. You have brothers? Indeed. Do you know of the temporal and spatial Pokémon? Oh, Dialga and Palkia. Correct. You really are a smart child, Izuku. Hee. Thank you. My parents and Ochako and Holly think so too. Izuku rubs the back of his head shyly. Speaking of Ochako, where is she? She's went to her old hometown with her parents. They have an errand there. Is that so? By the way, your puffs reminded me of what my trainer used to make. You have a trainer? Yes. Long ago, before the Era of Quirks. Oh, they're not here anymore? What were they like? Sit down, little Izuku. I will tell you a great story. Giratina closed his eyes and reminisced the memories of him and his old trainer, quickly getting hit by nostalgia. Izuku and his poke friends complied. Where shall I begin? Ah yes, how about the time we first met each other at the Spear Pillar in the region of Hokkaido? There was a man named Cyrus who enslaved my brothers, seeking to use their power to destroy the universe and create a new one in his image. That's crazy. That means he'll hurt everyone if he destroyed the universe. Yes. To stop his plans, my trainer and my sisters, Uxie, Mesprit and Azelf tried to free Dialga and Palkia from Cyrus' red chains. But my trainer and sisters could not do so even with all their power. Thus, Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf called for my aid. I was mad at the man who dared to enslave my brothers and destroy the creations of my father, thus I dragged him to my distortion world. What happened next? My trainer and the Pokémon champion named Cynthia followed after us to the distortion world and battled Cyrus. After he lost, he made an oath to himself that he will unlock the secrets of the universe and create a new one out of that knowledge. Fortunately, he failed to do so. After that, I fought and became a part of my trainer's team to stop the influence of my realm's gravity from messing up your world. I helped them to become a Pokémon champion and ventured throughout Japan. After that, we came back to the Spear Pillar where we fought and defeated Dialga and Palkia. Thus, my brothers joined my trainer's team. We even fought and convinced my father Arceus to join us. We became the most powerful team in the land at the time. So cool. Before my trainer took their last breath, they freed us and all the other Pokémon they caught. Of course, us legendary Pokémon can free ourselves from a Pokeball at any given time. But my old trainer was one of a kind like you, which is why we stayed until their very last breath. As an expression of gratitude for stopping Cyrus and recognition for all my trainer's accomplishments, Arceus bestowed what you and your kind would call quirks. Wow! The TV said quirks came from a virus spread by Rattata, but it's actually Arceus. That's right, dear trainer. But remember, this is a big secret. You can't tell anyone unless you trust them very much like Ochako or your parents, okay? Okay. And so, Giratina told more stories to Izuku, who happily and eagerly listened. Not once did Izuku ask Girikuin to tell Arceus to give him a quirk. He said that he doesn't need a quirk to help others and be a good person. Oh ho ho. Little Izuku, if you could see through the future, your quirk is one of the strongest to ever exist. Later that night, Inko was the one who listened to Izuku's story before bedtime instead of telling it. Back in the distortion world, Giratina had a lot to contemplate. Arceus told that Izuku will be offered one of the greatest quirks to ever exist, one for all. Would Izuku accept it? What if he rejected the offer? Izuku more than deserves one for all. Since he could not glimpse to the future, all he could do was watch Izuku's journey on the way to be the greatest and the very best. Who would have thought that the almighty scary Giratina would become friends and grow a soft spot for a human, the species he hated so much? One thing was for sure. Befriending Izuku Midoriya might not be so bad after all. Later at night in the Bakugo residence, the hag was making Katsuki eat a huge egg all by himself. What the heck was she thinking? He can't eat it all by himself. But when he asked about it, the hag's answer was, just eat it. It'll make you a better person. If his mother meant that he would get stronger if he ate it, then he will gladly do so without hesitation. But the moment he took a bite out of the soft-boiled egg, he couldn't resist craving for more. He took another bite, then another, and another. It was simply too delicious to stop eating. And in no time, he ate all of the egg. However, Katsuki noticed something strange. All the bitter and angry feelings from earlier was gone. He felt happy now despite losing to Deku earlier. Kakin has been acting weird lately. On the bright side, he didn't use his quirk, Explosion, to hurt other kids or Pokémon frequently anymore. He would only do that when he's very angry. However, he would still call mean names and threaten other kids. He was noticeably less of a JRK, but still a JRK nonetheless. Ever since he was defeated by Izuku in a Pokémon battle a few days ago, he would challenge every kid at school to a battle. Kakin only lost twice or thrice against the other kids in his kindergarten. If the other kids can't beat him, then that means Deku's win was just a fluke. The nerd just got lucky and it won't happen again. Ever. Or so he thought. Whenever the explosive child and his Cyndaquil would challenge Izuku and Oliver, they would sometimes win and sometimes lose. That's okay, right? Everyone must face wins and defeats at some point. But not to Kakin. He won't be the greatest hero or the very best trainer if he lost to some quirkless loser. Thus, he needed to battle all the kids in school some more in order to make Cyndaquil stronger. Eventually, Cyndaquil evolved into a Kalava. Of course, Oliver did not just stand by and do nothing while his sort of rival was becoming stronger by the minute. Oliver trained and battled with Holly and his trainer's parents' Pokémon whenever he had the chance. Eventually, he too evolved into a Dartrix by the time Izuku was 7 years old. However, Katsuki did not like the fact that Deku's Pokémons was making progress and catching up to him. Thus, Katsuki decided to see for himself how stupid Deku's Pokémon got stronger. So here he was with Kalava, hiding and following a quirkless nerd and a brown-haired girl he hadn't met before who was also following a small hedgehog-like Pokémon he hadn't seen before. Was it a super rare Pokémon and were they trying to catch it? No way. Not if Katsuki manages to catch it first. Good thing he had the great ball he bought from the other day. His old man said it had a better catch rate than a regular Pokeball, so he was definitely gonna catch that strange Pokémon. Right? One Friday afternoon, a 7-year-old Izuku Midoriya and a 7-year Ochako Uraraka walked alongside their poke friends through a forest near their neighborhood. The children were not worried about getting lost, for Holly was leading the way for them. Oliver was cautiously looking around for some uninvited guests that might be following them. Thanks to his superior eyesight, he found Katsuki and Kalava in no time at all. He also noticed the great ball in his hand while he looked at Holly in a greedy manner. When he warned Holly about the uninvited guest, she telepathically responded to let them do as they please for now. She said she knew of a perfect way to teach that boy a lesson. Trusting whatever plan Holly had, Oliver continued to observe the explosive boy's movements. The group stopped by an open spot filled with grass and surrounded by trees. It was perfect for a picnic and big enough to have a Pokémon battle. That's it. They're probably having a little picnic here because they brought a picnic basket along. She said that Girikuin and the other legendary Pokémon Izuku befriended recently will come meet them. It's also Ochako's first time meeting the other legendary. However, Holly moves towards one of the bushes and stands intimidatingly. Chirp chirp squeak. Holly cried. The bushes rustled and out came Kakin and Kalava. What is he doing here? He shouldn't see Holly. What if he tells everyone about her and she gets taken away? It's alright, Izuku. No one is going to take me away from our family. Just sit back and watch, okay? Holly comforted Izuku through telepathy as to avoid exposing herself as a legendary. Izuku complied and sat next to Ochako. You wanna fight me? You look too girly and weak, but everyone's gonna praise me for catching a rare Pokemon like you, so I don't care. Katsuki challenged. His Pokemon growls and flares up his flames to intimidate his opponent. Stop it, Kakin. Kakin? So you're the boy who's always mean to Izuku? Ochako glared at the blonde-haired boy. Shut up, stupid Deku. Stay out of my way. Kalava, start by using Flame Wheel. Katsuki ordered. Kalava obeys and envelopes himself with a wheel of flames while charging towards his opponent. Holly dodges out of the way and uses Magical Leaf, scattering leaves from her body that chased Kalava no matter how much he tried to dodge or outmaneuver the leaves. However, the move was not very effective as it was a Grass-type move against a Fire-type Pokemon. Use Quick Attack. The Volcano Pokemon lunges at Holly in a speed that it almost made him invisible. While Holly uses Magical Leaf once more as it is his only damaging move. After both attacks successfully land, Katsuki orders his Pokemon to use Ember. Holly dodges most of the flames, but she was still hit by the move. She retaliates by using Magical Leaf again. This is it. One more move and that Pokemon's HP will be low enough to be captured. Thus, Katsuki orders Kalava to use Ember once again. For some reason, Holly didn't move out of the way. Has she finally given up and decided to let herself get captured by the kid who hates Izuku for some reason? Will she leave Izuku for good? Kalava's Ember fully hit Holly. She didn't faint, but she was now covered in dirt and dust. She was panting and standing weakly. However, it was only an act. She discreetly used Protect to render her opponent's attack useless. She then quickly covered herself in dirt and dust to make it look like the Ember successfully landed. Katsuki then throws his great ball at the seemingly weakened Pokemon. Izuku tries to block the ball, but one glare and the sparking hands from Katsuki made him back off. Katsuki hadn't been beating anyone up lately, but Izuku was still afraid of him. Who wouldn't be afraid of their own tormentor? Blink. Izuku, Ochako, and their Pokemon waited for Holly to get out of the ball. Shake. Katsuki was quickly running out of patience. Just get captured already. Blink. Izuku now had tears forming in his eyes. Holly had still yet to come out, and the Pokeball almost finished its capturing process. Inside the ball, Holly was smirking. She just had to wait to get captured and properly teach this explosive boy a lesson. Click. That's it. The rare Pokemon was Katsuki's now. At that moment, Izuku allowed his tears to fall. His friend was captured. By his tormentor, no less. Haha. I gotcha now. Katsuki celebrated and went to pick up the ball with his new Pokemon inside. But before he could, the ball shook. It glowed and sparked with electricity before being shattered to many pieces. Out came Holly, who ran back to her crying trainer to comfort him. So that was your plan? Do you know how much you scared Izuku, huh Holly? Oliver deadpanned. Scaring Izuku wasn't a part of my plan to teach that boy a lesson that you cannot just claim a Pokémon as your own just because you want to. Especially not legendary Pokémon. Hush, now Izuku. I'm here now. I told you, didn't I? No one is ever going to take me away from our family. Holly comforts her trainer. I know, but it still scared me. What if he really did capture you and took you away from us? The only one I'll let capture me is you, my dear precious trainer. Don't ever do something like that again, okay Holly? Of course. It's a promise, Izuku. Holly promised. Her adorable trainer embraces her, making her body bloom with flowers, and makes a smile that is brighter than 1,000 suns. The same smile that her trainer always deserved to wear. Ochako, Oliver, and Kirby felt their hearts squeeze as they watched. Meanwhile, the same cannot be said for Katsuki. He was greatly stunned by the fact that a Pokémon he saw for the first time and so rare that it might be legendary, has broken itself out of his great ball just when he caught it. Was it even possible for a Pokémon to do that? Not only that, but Deku appeared to be friends with it. Why? What makes stupid Deku a better choice than Katsuki? The next greatest hero and the very best trainer? His palms were smoking and detonating small explosions as it dripped with nitroglycerin like sweat. Kalava wisely backed off from his trainer as he knew what happened to those who crossed him. Mitsuki made her son promise not to hurt anyone. While he didn't want to make his mom disappointed, he never wanted to hit Izuku so bad like this moment. Enraged, Katsuki stomps his way to Izuku, who flinched and shudders in fear upon seeing Katsuki come closer. That round-faced girl holds Izuku's arm defensively. Deku, what the heck just happened? You better answer me. Katsuki demands loudly as if Izuku even knew it himself. No. Izuku-kun doesn't have to answer to a big JRK like you. Ochako responds. Ha! Who the heck are you, Roundface? Katsuki demanded again. My name is not Roundface. I'm Ochako Uraraka. I'm Izuku-kun's best friend. Ochako embraces Izuku, who blushes upon the contact. See, calm down. Ochako-chan is my best friend, like she said. She's so brave and cool, she's not even scared of Kaken. Izuku thought as he fidgets. Oh? What's this? Could they end up as more than best friends in the future? How interesting. Holly hummed in thought. She dismisses those thoughts for later. The situation right now was a much bigger priority. Why would you be friends with a useless, quirkless loser like him? He's not useless or a loser. Yes, he is. No, he's not. Oh yeah? Prove it. Hearing Katsuki's shouting was starting to annoy Holly. She thought the boy would just shut his vulgar mouth on his own after she taught him a lesson. But it appears she would have to reveal her secret as a legendary in order to properly teach this boy a lesson. No matter, not one person would believe the boy if he told anyone anyway, and her words will give him a lot to contemplate. Enough. Holly yelled, to which she gains everyone's attention. Huh? Did that Pokémon just talk? How? Because I am the legendary Pokémon of gratitude, Shaymin. You. How did you break your Pokeball? I caught you. Don't you want to be on a strong trainer's team like me? No. Because I don't like you. I don't want a loud aggressive boy who thinks he's better than everyone as my trainer. I am better than everyone. My mom says I'm awesome, the extras at school think I'm amazing. Oh? And why is that? I have an amazing quirk and a strong partner. Everyone says it's perfect for a hero or a trainer. They're wrong. Huh? Being a hero isn't just about having an amazing quirk or getting praised for defeating the bad guys. It's about how they use their quirk to help others. What about All Might? Why do you think he is a hero? Because he's cool, and heroes should always win fights no matter how tough they are. Wrong again. He fights to protect others who can't fight for himself. You shouldn't use violence in every situation. When peaceful options fail to solve a problem, that's when violence is used. What about being a trainer then? Being a great trainer is not just about having strong Pokémon. It's about the bond and trust between a trainer and their Pokémon and understanding each other. Why did you choose Deku? I'm so much better and stronger than him. You're right, you're stronger and much better than Izuku at almost everything. Bakugo smirked upon hearing the Pokémon agree to his statement. Izuku looked somewhat saddened. But you are also far more violent than him. Much more violent than other children and adults I've seen in my life. Izuku here is kind and compassionate, unlike you. You see, us legendary Pokémon hate violence. Huh? Then what about that renegade Pokémon who looks like an oversized worm? Suddenly, the atmosphere felt heavy. Katsuki had an unsettling feeling that something angry was coming. He felt that he made a huge mistake by saying that. A portal suddenly appears beneath the ground and out came a shadowy creature with glowing red eyes. Katsuki tries to back away, only for him to fall on his own 2 feet as the creature towered over him. He felt genuinely afraid. Was this how he made Deku feel all the time? This feeling was unpleasant, and he knew for sure that no one likes it. Should he apologize to Deku for beating him down and always making fun of him? How would he even begin to apologize? Would an apology even be enough? Huh? Then what about that renegade Pokémon who looks like an oversized worm? Suddenly, the atmosphere felt heavy. Katsuki had an unsettling feeling that something angry was coming. He felt that he made a huge mistake by saying that. A portal suddenly appears beneath the ground and out came a shadowy creature with glowing red eyes. Katsuki tries to back away, only for him to fall on his own 2 feet as the creature towered over him. He felt genuinely afraid. Was this how he made Deku feel all the time? This feeling was unpleasant, and he knew for sure that no one likes it. Should he apologize to Deku for beating him down and always making fun of him? How would he even begin to apologize? Would an apology even be enough? You insufferable, insolent brat. You dare call me an oversized worm? Giratina roared. Calm down, Giratina. I know you want to lecture or maybe even punish him, but please do it in a way that will not leave him traumatized. Holly protests. Fine. This why I hate you humans and your ego. You measure your worth based on your own quirks and the power of your own Pokémon. They are not tools that you use to satisfy your own egos and spread violence. Giratina scolded. If only there were more humans like Izuku, Ochako, and their family. They are one of the few kind-hearted humans in this world. Giratina looks at Izuku and Ochako in a gentle manner. The children both smiled brightly. What? Why you're friends with Deku too? Do not call Izuku that demeaning name. Giratina warned. Katsuki shudders in fear. It's okay, Girikuin. Deku means Dekairu and it's a cute nickname, like Ochako said. Izuku calms Giratina down. Ochako nodded and her smile grew bigger as Holly and their poke friends watched them fondly. Chuckle, I do agree that it sounds very similar to Dekairu and that it's a cute nickname. But only when your friends say it, and not this fiery porcupine child or any other bullies. Giratina turns his attention back to Katsuki, for he still needed to teach his own lesson to the boy. Now then, do you know what you are feeling right now? Katsuki nods. Scared. Correct. Do you like what you're feeling? Katsuki shook his head. This is how Izuku feels whenever you would attack or make fun of him. Do you ever think about that? Katsuki shook his head again and looks down with guilt. What about the other children in your school? Katsuki shook his head yet again. I can tell that you want to be a hero. Is that right? Katsuki nods. Heroes do not ridicule people for their weakness. And heroes especially do not harm them. Only villains do that. Katsuki's eyes widened upon hearing the renegade Pokemon's words. He's right. He wants to be the greatest hero and the very best trainer in the world, but he's been acting like a villain this whole time. Realizing how unheroic he had been, Katsuki looks down to the ground. For the first time ever, there were tears forming in his eyes. Oh, RYHM? Did you say something? Asked Holly. I said I'm sorry. Katsuki shouts. Izuku's eyes widened in shock, for Kaken had just apologized. Was his ears playing tricks to him or was this real? I'm such a bad person. I was being mean to others while thinking I was a hero? I shouldn't have laughed and made fun of you when I heard you were quirkless. I shouldn't have hurt you when you said you want to be a hero and trainer. Kaken. Izuku murmured. So this was real after all. Seeing his trainer's change of heart, Kalava nudges Katsuki's leg comfortingly and supportively. That's right. He also needed to apologize to his Pokémon. He may not have heard it, but he was making it battle all the time just to get stronger and he wasn't taking care of it properly. And so, Katsuki picks up Kalava and apologized. His Pokémon simply smiled and cried happily while licking his cheek. As heartfelt as your apology may be, it simply won't be enough. Confused, Katsuki looks up to the legendary Pokémon in front of him. Huh? If you broke a glass and you said sorry to it, would it get fixed? Asked Holly. No. It's still broken. Exactly. I suggest that you get rid of that huge ego and crude attitude of yours. Otherwise, not even one of us legendary Pokémon or a single person will approach, let alone befriend you. Holly suggested. But it all comes down to what Izuku will say. The small Pokémon then climbs on top of her trainer's hair. Wanting to fix what he broke, Katsuki asks to be Izuku's friend again. A real friend. He wants to make up and reconcile with his Izuku, the only one who saw him for who he is, not his quirk or Pokémon. Of course, Izuku agreed. He was willing to be friends with Kaken again, starting with having a picnic today with him. There were more than enough poke puffs and snacks for everyone. They tasted heavenly as always, having been made by Inko. Suddenly, there was a sphere of rainbow-colored lights descending from the sky towards the ground in front of them. The light fades, revealing Cresselia, a legendary Pokémon with a blue swan-like body and a yellow underside. She has pink eyes, a dark pink, round tuft on its head, and a pointed, beak-like snout. There are yellow, crescent-shaped ornaments on the sides of its head. Cresselia has glowing, pink, ring-like wings on her sides and back with paw-like protrusions resting on her chest. Cresselia's tail also resembled a beautiful aurora during the quarter moon as well. "Hello, Cresselia. Thanks again for helping me get rid of my nightmares," said Izuku. "Oh, don't mention it, Izuku. It's only natural that I dispel Darkray's nightmares, especially when a kind innocent child such as you is having them," Cresselia replied. "Hee hee. By the way, where's Darkray? He's in New Moon Island. He did not want to give you more nightmares unnecessarily." "Oh. Okay. Tell him I said hi." "Chuckle of course, Izuku. Months ago, in the midst of the night?" One crying Izuku Midoriya woke up from his nightmares and embraced his Pokémon as hard as he could, as if they would disappear the moment he let go. It was exactly what his nightmare was about. His poke friends Oliver and Holly was being taken away by shadowy hands or getting caught by someone else's Pokeball. It was also about Mama and Papa having a new kid while abandoning him. Next was about Ochako leaving him behind for Kaken, while telling he was weak and useless and that she didn't want to be friends with him. Though Holly assures Izuku that it will never happen. Holly continues to soothe and calm her trainer when Oliver saw a silhouette with a single glowing blue eye thanks to his sharp eyesight. It stared at them from the balcony before disappearing to the woods nearby. He decides to go after and confront Darkray. "Why are you here? Have you come to harm Izuku?" Oliver demanded. "I am here with Cresselia to watch over the Chosen One in his sleep. You see, us legendaries had a meeting one day and decided that at least 2 of us would watch over him as he sleeps to keep him from harm." Darkray answered. "I see. But is it necessary for you to give him nightmares?" "Ah, my apologies. I cannot control my power to give nightmares, and I mean no harm by it. But worry not, for Cresselia is here with me. She will dispel the nightmares that I give." Sometimes, Oliver would forget that it wasn't only the Quirkless who are mistreated. There were also people with quirks that are deemed as villainous. He could only stare at the pitch-black Pokémon in sympathy. "Now then, I suggest you go back to your trainer. He must be really worried about you, having nightmares about losing his dear friends." Not wanting to worry and make his trainer anxious any further, Oliver quickly flies back to his trainer's side, only to find him fast asleep whilst clutching a glowing crescent-shaped feather close to his chest. He had a peaceful expression on his face as he slept and embraced Holly, who went back to sleep. Cresselia watched the pair fondly and Oliver decided to go back to sleep with Izuku and Holly. The days, or nights passed and the lunar duo would come visit Izuku at sunset or nightfall in his room. They would talk to Izuku or tell him stories before bedtime. Thus, he grew closer to the lunar duo. Back to the present? Katsuki and Kalava stared at Cresselia in awe. Is this one of Izuku's friend too? Meanwhile, Ochako and Kirby was astounded and captivated by Cresselia's beauty. She was already beautiful in the blurry photos they would show on the news about legendary Pokémon sightings, but those photos can never compare to seeing Cresselia's beauty personally. "Pretty," Ochako muttered as her eyes sparkled in amazement. "Why, thank you. You're quite pretty yourself," Cresselia replied as she approached Ochako, who blushed on the compliment and twiddled her fingers shyly. "May I know your name?" the crescent Pokémon asked. "Yes. I'm Akakaraka. Wait, I mean Ochako Uraraka," Ochako sputtered. "Chuckle, a pretty name for a pretty human. I've heard a lot about you from Izuku," Cresselia commented. "I wonder what your dreams are like?" she asked to herself. You. I want to be a hero for money," Ochako replied, not knowing Cresselia was referring to her dreams when she sleeps, not dreams meaning ambitions. Holly does not approve of the answer of her trainer's best friend, while it left Girikuin disappointed. Was Ochako just like the rest of the humans after all? They did not want to think so. Thus, Holly asks for an explanation. "Why so?" Holly asked curiously. Izuku listened intently, for he did not know the full details of her reasons to be a hero. He felt like she would get uncomfortable if he asked. Kaken, too, chose to listen. He wanted to know what reasons are there aside from wanting to be the #1 hero. Well, my parents are poor. They own a construction company, but business isn't good. And I thought I could help my family while helping other people by being a hero, you know? Sorry if it sounds greedy," Ochako explained. Now that's an answer Holly approved. Chuckle, perhaps I judged you too early. A splendid answer. Girikuin pondered. It's not greedy. You want to help your parents while helping other people. In fact, I think your reasons are noble. Holly commented, to which her fellow legendary Pokémon agreed. Not bad, round face. Katsuki grinned in a sincere manner. While it may not be as epic as his own reason, it's still cool to help your parents. Oha! You can also use your quirk to replace some of the construction equipment, said Izuku, to which Ochako agreed. I know, right? Ochako uses her quirk on a pebble to demonstrate. But they told me to follow my dreams instead. I agree with your parents. Keep following your dreams and never forget why you want to be a hero. Cresselia gives Ochako a glowing crescent-shaped feather. Hold on to my lunar wing as a memento, Ochako. Ochako eagerly accepted. What about you, Katsuki Bakugo? Aside from the reason of wanting to beat up villains, why do you want to be a hero? Heh, I want to be the #1 hero. And you, Izuku? Shaman and Giratina told us already, but I want to hear it from your own mouth. I want to be a cool hero who saves everyone with a smile on his face. Just like All Might. Excellent answers. May each one of your dreams come true. And so, they continued to have their picnic in the middle of the woods surrounded by flowers as planned. Izuku's unexpected friendships led to the moment right now, and he would not trade it for anything else. It was already everything he could ever want, poke friends, a best friend, and the opportunity to reconcile with his old friend. A Pokémon wandered through the woods all alone. It didn't know where it was? All it knew was that it was tired and hungry. It hadn't eaten a proper meal ever since the day its trainer abandoned for it too weak to be on their team. The trainer did give this Pokémon one last chance to stay on their team though. It had to prove its strength by fighting the trainer's other Pokémon, which it inadvertently lost. Covered in bruises and scratches all over its own body, the Pokémon knew that it was too wounded and too worn out to find its own food. It just sustained itself via feeding on small berries in some bushes, which some stronger or bigger Pokémon would just take away or steal. It also didn't have a proper shelter, only sleeping on top of a pile of leaves the ground underneath a tree. His wounds were still open. Who knows how much they've been infected? The wandering Pokémon was pulled out of its thoughts when it heard some noises. Some people, maybe about 2 or 3 children laughing and giggling? There was also a Kalava, a Jigglypuff, and a Dartrix. Wait. Are those legendary Pokémon beside them? Oh great. It was probably a hallucination due to its own hunger and tiredness. More importantly, it looked like they were having a picnic. Maybe the Pokémon could ask for some food, or maybe the kids will take it to a nearby Pokémon Center. With newfound hope, the Pokémon began to approach them. Only for it to fall to the ground. Its eyes felt heavy and unconsciousness takes over the Pokémon as it closed its eyes. Look, Ochako. We match, said Izuku while showing his own lunar wing that Cresselia gave to him. Oh, you're right. Why don't we make it a matching necklace? Ochako suggested. Her sweet yet timid best friend nods. Suddenly, some nearby bushes rustled and out came a Pokémon covered in wounds and bruises. It resembled a small chimpanzee with orange fur and a yellow face, outer ears, underbelly, hands, and feet. This Pokémon is Chimchar. The fire on its rear end burned weakly. An indication that it was sick on top of being wounded. It reached out its hands as if begging for food, but it fell to the ground unconscious with its flames extinguished. Oh no! Did it just die? The 3 children present began to panic. Izuku hurries to Chimchar's side to shake it awake. In response, the Pokémon groaned in pain as its eyelids twitched. Good. Chimchar is still alive. However, it was extremely hurt, its fur was too rough and dirty, and it looked too malnourished. What should Izuku do? He could leave it in a Pokémon Center, but he wanted to help take care of Chimchar too. If only he could take it home and either Mama or Papa could take care of it. Wait, Papa is a Pokémon Ranger. He has a license that lets him take care of wild, abused, or abandoned Pokémon, and Mama can help because she has a license like that too. Without wasting any more time, Izuku bids farewell to his friends and asks Girikuin to make a portal leading to his home and another portal leading to Ochako and Katsuki's own houses. Wait. I'm coming with you, Izuku-kun, said Ochako. What about you, Kakin? Asked Izuku. I think I'm gonna go home. I need to talk to the old my mom. Katsuki replied. But I'll check you guys out tomorrow. With that, Izuku packs the things he brought along for picnic today and hops through the portal with Chimchar in his arms. Ochako, Kirby, Oliver and Holly following after him. Inko groomed her poke friends in the living room while waiting for Izuku to go back from their little picnic and Hisashi from his job. A single high-pitched noise suddenly envelopes the room before one of Giratina's portals opened on the floor. Out came Izuku, whom had a panicked look on his face while carrying a wounded Chimchar. Following after him was a worried Ochako and their Pokémon. Oh my Arceus. What happened? At the picnic area. Chimchar came out of some bushes and fainted. After hearing Izuku's explanation, Blissey immediately takes the wounded Pokémon from Izuku's arms and lays it down on a mattress. Inko then checks on Chimchar, assessing how badly hurt and malnourished it was. Blissey wastes no time wiping the wounds clean and disinfecting them. While her Blissey was treating the wounded Pokémon, Inko cooks some soup and prepares some medicine for Chimchar since it felt feverish. Hisashi came home just in time. The moment his wife told him about Chimchar, he immediately went to check it, only to find the Pokémon being healed by Blissey's heal pulse. Good, its wounds are gone, but it doesn't change the fact that it was still feeling sick. One good look at the Pokémon and Hisashi immediately knew it was abandoned, and most likely abused by its trainer. They had the privilege of being chosen by wonderful Pokémon, only for those trainers to abandon them. He can't stand people like that. Guys or gals like that needed to be thrown in jail or something. It's just deplorable to see and use Pokémon as tools for the power hierarchy and abandon them if they didn't meet your expectations. 2 hours later, around nighttime, most of Chimchar's wounds were now healed. Hisashi had already assessed Chimchar's vital signs and stats, where he found out Chimchar is a male about level 7, and other info he could use to find the Pokémon's old trainer. As Chimchar slowly regained his consciousness, he immediately felt that he wasn't lying on cold hard ground or a pile of leaves. It was soft and comfortable. A mattress? A futon? Chimchar's eyes slowly opened, only to see an unfamiliar ceiling and some walls. This is definitely not the woods. Where is this place? He tries to get up, only for him to be stopped by a pair of hands belonging to a young boy that had a dark green-colored hair and vibrant green eyes. The boy's hair and eyes reminded Chimchar of a tree and an emerald jewel. Next to him was a young girl with chocolate brown hair and eyes. "Hey, don't worry. We won't hurt you," said the green-haired boy, to which the brown-haired girl nods. The Pokémon suddenly felt a jolt of pain in his arm, making him whimper. It was a middle-aged man with a curly black hair and red eyes, injecting him with a syringe. The man simply smiled in a kind manner, as if telling the Pokémon that everything is all right. "Oh good, you're finally awake," a woman with green hair and eyes said as she carried a tray with a bowl of soup and a few bottles of medicine. For some reason, Chimchar didn't feel afraid of these people. In fact, it felt comfortable around them and that it could trust them despite not meeting them before. "Here, I have some food for you," said the woman as she began to feed Chimchar. "Right. Food." The aroma alone made him feel full, but he wanted to eat it. He gets up in a sitting position and begins to eat the soup served to him. Wait. This is 100 times better than the canned poke food his former trainer would feed him. He puts another spoon in his mouth. Then another, and another. Each spoonful tickled his taste buds and filled his stomach. But the bowl was already empty, much to Chimchar's disappointment. "Oh my. You must be hungry for more. Wait a moment, I'll bring you some more soup," said Inko. After Chimchar ate his second serving and had some medicine, he took a nice warm bubble bath to get clean. The lukewarm water also helped bring down his fever. Then the family members, plus the girl and their poke pals, properly introduced themselves to him. After that, Izuku and Ochako decided to make a matching necklace from their lunar wing. Chimchar went to talk to their Pokémon, where he learned that some of them were rescued or abandoned like him. Sorry for asking, but were you guys rescued by your trainers too?" asked Chimchar. "Not all of us were rescued, but you are correct," Delphox replied as she smiled in a friendly manner. My old trainer made me battle nonstop. He wanted to be a Pokémon champion so bad, but he never thought of my own or my teammates' well-being," Garchomp informed. "Good thing Lady Inko took me away from that sorry excuse of a trainer," Garchomp added as he smiled at the memory. "I was abandoned by a Pokémon coordinator when I used to be a Phoeba. My former trainer wanted to evolve me into Milotic, but she couldn't do so. Thus, she abandoned me instead," Milotic answered. "After that, I met Lady Inko when she was still a young maiden and I've been her friend ever since. In my case, I got separated from my siblings and trapped under some boulders when I was still a young Shinx." Luxray began to reminisce. "A hero named All Might helped out of the boulders and took me to a Pokémon Center. There, Hisashi was the one who treated my wounds and looked after me each day. After I became fully healed, I decided to choose Hisashi as my trainer and bid my family farewell. That isn't to say that I don't visit them from time to time," Luxray recounted. "Lapras, one of our friend, was saved by Hisashi from a group of hooligans harassing him," said Alakazam. Lapras was wary of humans, but Hisashi worked hard to earn his trust and heal his wounds. As you may have guessed, Lapras too joined my trainer's team. So the adults were some of the few nice trainers around. Their bond was far from Master and SLV, but instead, their bond is between friends. But Chimchar wanted to know about the boy too. What about Izuku? Chimchar asked. Izuku is such a wonder. His heart radiates purity and kindness that makes you want to help him no matter what happens. He can make any place peaceful, yet lively simply by being there. Oliver answered. All the Pokémon present agreed as they smiled fondly. They told him about Izuku's quirklessness, being best friends with Ochako, making a prideful Katsuki reconcile with him, and even befriending Shaymin and Giratina. How? Didn't all legendary Pokémon hate humans? It was there when Holly revealed herself. So Chimchar really wasn't hallucinating when he saw Giratina, Cresselia, and Shaymin have a picnic with Izuku. All the tales he heard so far about the Midoriya family made him want to be a part of it. Should he choose one of the family members as his trainer? But who? No matter. He wasn't even fully healed yet. He wanted to see more of this family first. He will leave those questions to tomorrow's him. But for now, Chimchar needed a good night's sleep. Speaking of sleep, Holly, Oliver and Kirby goes back to Izuku's room to hit the hay, only to find Izuku and Ochako sound asleep. They were both wearing their own lunar wings as a necklace as they cuddled with each other in their sleep. Izuku's necklace obviously had ornaments of heroes and Pokémon masters, specifically All Might and Trainer Red. It also had an ornament of a strawberry and a comet. Meanwhile, Ochako's necklace had ornaments of stars, the sun, moon, and Saturn. It also had a broccoli and a bush with flowers. Both children had a peaceful expression on their faces as their lunar wing necklace glowed faintly. They were surely having sweet dreams tonight. After all, they both had their own lunar wing and slept in each other's arms. Their poke friends could only wonder what their humans were dreaming about as they prepared to sleep. It could be anything from being pro-heroes, Pokémon champions, and even getting married. However, Holly had one last thought before sleep took over her. They will surely end up as more than just friends in the future. Surprised wasn't enough to describe how the Bakugu parents felt. Both Mitsuki and Masaru Bakugu did not even know what word was used to describe how they felt all at once. They were indeed surprised when their son apologized to them for being a troublemaker and calling his mother an old hag all the time. They listened to their son's little adventure where he was following Izuku and a girl named Uraraka who were both being led by a small, rare Pokémon through a forest which turned out to be Shaymin. From there, Katsuki told about how he was scolded by Shaymin and Giratina, the renegade Pokémon himself. From what they heard in the myths and legends, Giratina was supposedly banished to another world for his violence. The parents were worried, but were glad and relieved that Giratina only chose to scold her son and did not choose to hurt him. After that, he told about how he reconciled with Izuku and was invited to join their little picnic where they met Cresselia, the lunar Pokémon. They felt thankful towards Shaymin and Giratina for talking some sense into their hot-headed son since he never listened to his parents, or anyone at all. Of course, Mitsuki and Masaru did not forget to tell their son that it's wrong to eavesdrop on people. Normally, Katsuki would talk back to his parents when scolded, for he didn't want anyone telling him what to do. This time, however, he simply listened to his parents and told that he won't do it again. Seeing that their son was changing for the better, a smile was brought onto the mother and father's faces. At the Midoriya residence, Izuku and Ochako sat at the living room with their poke friends, watching a TV show for children. The children's show was about the misadventures of a certain Hydreigon with a peculiar ability to communicate with its two heads that acted like Hydreigon's conscience. The right head being the angel, and the left one being the devil. Because of this particular TV show, the numbers of trainers rejecting the Hydreigon evolution line when they get chosen had decreased significantly. Furthermore, the numbers of children or trainers adopting and capturing its evolution line had increased drastically. As a result, the Hydreigon evolution line had developed a much more gentle demeanor around humans. As the children continued to watch the TV show, an hour had passed. Ochako's parents came to pick her up. The young girl kissed her best friend's cheek and embraced him before she left with her parents. They wanted to play and spend some time together more, but it wasn't a problem, for they would see each other later. Just like they always did. Izuku's heart would always beat faster and his cheeks would flush every time Ochako did so. But it wasn't a big deal, right? Best friends do that a lot. Probably. A few moments later, Katsuki came to invite Izuku to find or even catch some Pokémon. Izuku happily accepts the invitation. Even though the green-haired child doesn't want to catch Pokémon, he saw this as a chance for their friendship to be stronger. Holly decides to stay at home, while Oliver decides to come along with his friend. Behind Katsuki was his lackeys, he couldn't really call them friends, who seemingly did not want Izuku to come along with them based on the condescending smirks and scoffs they tried to hide. Young Katsuki wanted to catch a second Pokémon to his team so that his Kalava will be less lonely. Thinking that legendary Pokémon often appeared or stopped by the forest where they had a picnic yesterday, he was hoping to see if he could meet more legendary Pokémon too. Let's catch some Pokémon. Katsuki cheered whilst he raised his fist up high. Yeah! A chubby boy with red bat wings named Tsubasa and a skinny boy with extendable fingers named Yubi followed. Oh! Yeah! Izuku cheered. Katsuki led the other kids as they marched. It was obvious to Katsuki and Izuku that their other friends were walking at a faster pace, trying to leave Izuku behind. In their minds, a quirkless loser like Izuku shouldn't hang out with people as cool as them. They searched the bushes, climbed trees, and walked through tall grass. Despite their best efforts, the kids did not find any Pokémon interesting or rare enough to be captured. Izuku just glanced and watched at whatever Pokémon they passed by with curiosity. To him, every Pokémon is interesting. Especially the strange, floating, small pink feline-like Pokémon. For some reason, it kept following him and Oliver. But whenever they approached it, the Pokémon would disappear before their eyes. Did you guys find anything? Asked Katsuki. No. Just a bunch of useless Rattatas over here. Answered Yubi. There's only caterpies and Pidgeys up here. Answered Tsubasa. As they walked through the woods, Katsuki's feet slipped, making him fall off of a log bridge. Fortunately, he wasn't hurt aside from the fact that he scraped his knee, for the height of the fall was not too high and there was a small river filled with water under the bridge. Hey, are you okay down there? Asked Yubi. Oh, don't worry. Kakin is super tough, see? Tsubasa points to Katsuki who brushes himself off. Hurry and get back up here. They called out. Sure. Just gimme 1 second. Katsuki replied as he stands up. But before he could, he finds Izuku right in front of him with his hand outstretched. Are you alright? Are you hurt? Izuku asked. Worriedly. As Katsuki stares at the outstretched hand before him, his young mind thought that the one in front of him was looking down on him for thinking he needed help. He was about to slap away Izuku's hand, but then he saw Izuku's eyes. He couldn't see that Izuku was looking down on him. He could only see pure, genuine kindness and concern behind those eyes. I know you're strong, but it would have been bad if you hit your head. Izuku explained. He was going to deny Izuku's offer, but then he remembered the words of Shaymin and Giratina. Being a hero isn't just about having an amazing quirk or getting praised for defeating the bad guys. It's about how they use their quirk to help others. Heroes do not ridicule people for their weakness. And heroes especially do not harm them. Only villains do that. He looks at his other friends who came along with them. No, he couldn't really call them friends. They were just extras who only saw him for his quirk and cling to him all the time as if they can't do anything for themselves. They were impatiently waiting for him to get back up and leave Izuku behind. They didn't even try to help him. But Izuku. He was the only one who didn't hesitate to help him up while the extras only watched. That was the moment when Katsuki realized that Izuku was his real friend? He didn't see a weak, useless nerd. He saw a friend, and a hero. Thus, Katsuki accepts Izuku's help, even if the help wasn't really necessary. They smiled at each other for a few moments before going back up to where the other kids waited. As the days passed, the wild Chimchar being taken care of by the Midoriya family became fully healed. It wasn't a smart move to immediately put Chimchar back to the wild after being nursed or be given for adoption. What if a wild Pokémon hurts him again? Or what if he was adopted by another trainer similar to his former trainer? The Midoriya parents didn't want the same thing to happen to Chimchar again. Thus, Hisashi and Inko agreed to take Chimchar to a Pokémon village under the Yaoyorozu family protection. It was a place where Pokémon live in to stay away from humans due to various reasons. Since it counts as a private property, no one could trespass here. As for Chimchar, he wanted to stay with this family but he didn't have the guts to tell that. What if they reject him? What if they did accept him, but didn't like him? What if? You seem to be pondering about something for quite some time now. Would you like to tell me about it? It was Izuku's friend Shaymin, Holly. She was concerned about what Chimchar may be thinking about. She lived for so many decades, so maybe she could give some advice on Chimchar's worries. Oh, you don't have to. It's nothing. Chimchar answered. It's not nothing. Even with my eyes closed, I can easily see through your lie, you know? Oliver, Izuku's Dartrix joked. I can't force you to tell me what troubles you, but are you sure you want to keep it to yourself? I might be able to help you. Holly smiled kindly. Chimchar took one deep breath and answered. He told about how much he wanted to stay with the Midoriya family. If possible, he would like to have either Izuku, Hisashi, or Inko as a trainer. That Kakin kid seemed too competitive and hot-headed for his liking, which is ironic since Chimchar was a fire type. If he chose Ochako, that would mean the Midoriyas won't be his family. Upon hearing Chimchar's comment about Kakin, Oliver struggled to hold in his laughter while Holly giggled loudly. Their reactions confused Chimchar. While Kakin took Girikuin and Holly's words to heart, a nice Kakin is still a competitive Kakin. After some time of laughing, Izuku's poke pals revealed the truth about him. Instead of pitying or discriminating Izuku like what other people or Pokemon would do, Chimchar was moved by Izuku's desire to help others despite his quirklessness. He thought Izuku was awesome for proving those who said quirkless people can't have a Pokemon wrong. Izuku had a burning passion, and Chimchar admired it. Meanwhile, Hisashi and Inko decided to give their son some Pokeball for his friends. They placed all the empty Pokeball they had on the table for Izuku to choose. Izuku, however, wanted his friends to choose their Pokeball to see which one they preferred. Holly climbs up and Oliver flies towards the table to examine the Pokeball. I like this one," cried Oliver as he taps a premier ball with his beak, to which Izuku picks up said Pokeball and held it in front of him. With the push of the button using his beak, Oliver was enveloped in a red light and absorbed into the premier ball. Everyone waited as the premier ball shook side to side and its button blinked until, click, gotcha. Dartrix is caught. With the press of the button on Oliver's premier ball, the Pokemon was sent out. Oliver smiled in satisfaction as Izuku gave him a big hug. Hoo. Now, I'm officially your Pokemon. Oliver thought. Since you already proved those who said you can't have a Pokemon wrong, let's prove them wrong even more by showing you can be a hero. Next, it was Holly's turn. I'd love to use the luxury ball, please, said Holly. Are you sure, dear? You'll be the first legendary Pokemon to be caught by someone during the last 200 years. Inko asked. Aha. I'd rather have Izuku catch me instead of other trainers. Ahem. Technically, you were captured by Bakugo first. Oliver chimed in. Hush, you. You know it doesn't count. Holly retorted playfully through telepathy. Okay. Here you go, Holly. Izuku holds the luxury ball in front of Holly, to which she presses the button with her paw. Everyone waited for a few seconds once more. Blink. Shake. Blink. Click. Gotcha. Shaymin was caught. She comes out of her luxury ball as Izuku presses the button. How was it, Holly? Yawn on. It feels cozy? But I think I prefer napping here instead, Izuku. Holly lies down on top of Izuku's head. Izuku lets go of Oliver to embrace Holly in his arms, which made her body bloom with flowers. I think I prefer napping here most. The gratitude Pokemon hums in contentment. Meanwhile, Chimchar grabs another Premier Ball, for he had chosen a member of the Midoriya family as his trainer, no, friend. The way everyone treated each other was more than just trainer and Pokemon. It was between friends or family. It was now or never. Holly was right. If he wanted to stay here, he better make the choice now. Otherwise, he will never get the chance. Thus, Chimchar taps the person's leg and gives the Pokeball to them. At first, they were confused, but when they understood, a bright smile formed on their face that rivaled Ultra Necrozma's light. The person holds out the Premier Ball in front of Chimchar, who then high-fives the button. Izuku, I choose you. Blink. Shake. Blink. Click. Gotcha. Chimchar was caught. The newly caught Chimchar comes out of his Premier Ball and immediately embraced by Izuku in a warm hug. Chimchar never got hugs like this from his former trainer, so it felt new to him but loved it. Hey. Do you want a nickname too, Chimchar? Asked Izuku. A nickname? Okay, sure. Chimchar nods shyly. I think I'll call you Flint. Izuku beamed. Because you're awesome like Flint from Hokkaido's Elite Four long ago. Oh, and he also has an Infernape. Do you like it? Izuku asked, to which his new poke friend nods and cries happily. A few moments later, Flint, Holly, and Oliver engages in a conversation. You've never been close to your trainer, haven't you? Well? How does it feel to have a nickname? Asked Holly. I don't know how to say it, but it feels like I'm much more closer to Izuku now. Flint answered. Oh yes, and it makes you feel one of a kind, doesn't it? Oliver added. Yup. It's nice, and I love it. Flint agreed. Oh yeah, you guys said you want to help out Izuku, right? How do you guys train? Well, we train by sparring against Mr. Hisashi and Ms. Inko's team. As of now, I'm level 25 while Holly is level 48. Now knowing the gaps of their abilities, Flint really needed to catch up to his teammates. He wanted to prove to his former trainer that he isn't a weakling, but he had his doubts whether or not he could do it. Most importantly, I want to train to get stronger too. I want to help Izuku reach his dreams like you guys. I'll tell him that later. I know he would love to train you. Holly smiled. A few moments later, Izuku sits down with them. Izuku and his poke pals talked to each other some more in order to get to know each other better. When the boy was told about how Flint wanted to train with them, his eyes were sparkling as he pulled out a notebook seemingly out of nowhere and started making plans. Oliver was right about Izuku being a wonder. Izuku would ask how, when, where would Flint like to train. He thought of his friend's well-being and feelings and didn't just think about how to make his team stronger as quickly as possible. He would be a far better trainer than others despite being quirkless. Well, Izuku's quirklessness wasn't really important. The naysayers can mock Izuku and discriminate him however they want. But with their new friends by their side, Izuku, Holly, Oliver, and Flint will be the greatest and the very best. Flint had one thought for certain though. I'm glad to be a part of this family. Not all Pokémon are bad, but not all of them are good either. Throughout history, many Pokémon have harmed and even killed both deserving and undeserving humans. Giratina did it, his brothers Dialga and Palkia had done it, Mutwo did it, even Arceus and Shaymin would do it when necessary. It's common knowledge that people become villains when they use their quirks or Pokémon to commit crime. But what about Pokémon who possess such intellect that they almost acted human? Is it possible for Pokémon with such intellect to commit crime of their own volition? Although the chances of it happening are rare, the possibilities are never zero. Take Hypno for example. They have an infamous reputation of hypnotizing innocent children and kidnapping them to wherever it lives. Recently, there have been incidents of missing children all over Japan. Though some of the incidents happened in broad daylight, the eyewitnesses' memories are hazy, as if they were affected by some kind of quirk or Pokémon. From what the few details the witnesses could remember, the perpetrator seems to be a Pokémon with yellow skin and standing at about 5 feet. The authorities confirm that it is indeed a Hypno, but they do not know if it is wild or owned by a trainer. So far, no one has been able to apprehend the perpetrator. For authorities cannot just apprehend the first Hypno they set sight on. Heck, they do not even know if it's just one or more Hypno that's committing the crimes. The Pokémon villages. Places found all over the different regions of the world where Pokémon live for various reasons. Some Pokémon have been mistreated by humans, such as Izuku's Chimchar, and lived here after escaping or rescued from such people. Chimchar, now Flint, would have been sent to live here had he not decided to choose Izuku as his trainer. Speaking of choosing trainers, some Pokémon that lived in these places did not want to join the tradition of choosing a human after their quirks awakened. Either they did not want to partake in violence or they thought the tradition was silly. Shouldn't they be choosing their companions based on their character and not by their quirk? How did this tradition even begin? In any case, the Pokémon living in these villages are quite timid and will only accept trainers who have solid bonds with their companions. Trainers such as Izuku, his parents, and Ochako. Currently, our young trainers and their Pokémon played with some of the Pokémon village's residents. Their parents were reluctant to let them go here since no one apprehended the perpetrator of the kidnapping incidents yet. However, they couldn't say no to their baby Pokémon eyes. Maybe Ochako would find her second Poke Pal here. But she wanted to earn her second Poke Pal by earning their trust first, not by defeating them in a battle. Kirby, her Jigglypuff, is not quite good at battles yet. Meanwhile, young Katsuki searched for any Pokémon to be a part of his team among the residents. He did not want to get left behind by Izuku, who already has 2 rare Pokémon, 3 if you count Holly, a Shaymin. A Gyarados or a Tyranitar would be an awesome addition to his team. But he's still too young to handle them. Maybe an Aracene or Primeape would still be pretty cool, though. So far, he was not having much luck with any of the Pokémon. They all thought he was too noisy, but from what the residents could tell, he is competitive but treats his friends well. Is it safe for children to be in a Pokémon village? They may be timid, but they are still wild Pokémon. If there's a responsible adult watching over them, then yes. Besides, children aren't allowed in Pokémon villages without an adult accompanying them. And unless anyone would provoke these Pokémon, they won't harm anyone. Who could be the adult accompanying our 3 young future trainers? Why, Hisashi Midoriya, of course. Speaking of him, he was currently chatting with a man with wearing a pair of glasses and a lab coat. This man is Hisashi's boss coworker who is also a friend outside of work. His boss happens to be the patriarch of the Yaoyorozu family, one of the richest families in the entire world. One could say that he was blessed by a legendary Pokémon when he showed kindness to it, but he never kept the blessings to himself. Mr. Yaoyorozu donated his money to charities, invested in hero support item development, Pokémon technology, funded several adoption centers for abused children and Pokémon, and many more. He is also quite intelligent as he is a Pokémon professor. He loves studying different kinds of Pokémon and disproving incorrect information about them. Suddenly, both of them heard a shrill scream from within the Pokémon village. After that, there was silence. Absolute absence of any form of sound. Not even the wind or any Pokémon cries could be heard. This can't be a good sign. Without any further delays, Hisashi decides to end their small talk and went to check on Izuku and his friends. He'll never forgive himself if anything happened to the kids. Hypno. A psychic type, bipedal humanoid Pokémon with yellow skin. It has a pair of sleepy-looking eyes and a large nose. They always carry around a pendulum which it uses for hypnotism and are never seen without it. They are known to live away from humans and on roads less traveled, but will hypnotize anyone who passes by and then eat their dreams. They are infamous for incidents of kidnapping people, particularly children, from time to time. What happens if a Hypno lives in a particular Pokémon village and sets its sight on two children wearing a lunar wing necklace, an artifact guaranteed to give sweet dreams to those who have it in their possession? Let us see what happens. A Buniri sitting on top of Ochako's lap. Izuku sitting next to his best friend as both children petted Buniri. All that while their Poke Pals rested inside their Pokeball. Meanwhile, Kakin had found a Pokémon, a Mankey to be precise, who is interested to be on his team. That is, on the condition that the boy must chase and catch the Mankey. A wholesome, light-hearted moment between children. Nothing can possibly ruin it, right? Buniri's ears perked up to a certain direction, seemingly wary of whoever is the newcomer. Puzzled, Izuku and Ochako turns to look at that direction and sees a Hypno. Oh, hello. You wanna play with us too? Izuku asks the Hypno. The Pokémon doesn't answer and continues to stare with its sleepy-looking eyes. He then hears a voice. It sounds breathy, raspy, and as if it was singing a lullaby. It doesn't seem to be coming from anywhere other than inside his own head. Come little children, come with me. Safe and happy, you will be. The voice sang. It was Hypno's voice. It talked using telepathy. Izuku and Ochako thinks about Hypno's offer. Not all Pokémon are bad, but not all of them are good either. No thanks. My mom and dad always tells us not to go with strangers. Ochako answers anxiously. Is that so? I'm just your friendly, neighborhood Hypno. Hypno grabs Ochako's arm. Away from home, now let us run. With Hypno, you'll have so much fun. Be free to frolic, be free to play. Come with me to my cave to stay. No. I don't wanna. Ochako cried and tries to get away from Hypno, but it was no use. For Hypno's grasp was too strong even with Izuku helping her. By some miracle, Hypno stumbled and loses its grip on Ochako's arm thanks to a couple of Pokémon moves hitting it. Well. What do we have here? A Dartrix, a Chinchar, a Jigglypuff, and oh, a legendary shaman here? It's not good to attack others while they are preoccupied, you know? Izuku and Ochako turn to see their Poke Pals out of their Pokeball. I've encountered a lot of Pokémon who harmed innocent people in my lifetime. You're the one responsible for the incidents of missing children, aren't you? Where are you taking them, Hypno? Holly interrogated. Don't worry. I wouldn't even harm even a strand of their hair. Keek. Hypno attempts to pet the two frightened children's hair, only to be stopped by a couple of feather quills almost hitting its hand. Coo! You're a disgusting Pokémon, Hypno. Let them go this instant. Oliver glared. Puff. Jigglypuff. He's right. Let our friends go. Char. You're gonna regret it if you don't. Oh my. How frightened I am. Hypno mocked. But what do you say we settle this like a Pokémon should? 4 of you against me in a battle, HM? If I lose, I'll find someone else who will have fun with me. If you lose, however. Upon hearing this, Holly, Oliver, Flint, and Kirby turns to look at each other and gave a determined nod. There's no way they would let Hypno take away their friends without going through them. You will not take my friends anywhere. Holly warned. Very well, then come at me. Pokémon Hypno wants to battle. Chimchar. Me first. Ember. Flint attempts to breathe out small flames. But before Flint could use Ember on Hypno, he was hit by his opponent's move first. The opposing Hypno was way faster and stronger, being level 100 while Flint is still level 1. Psybeam was enough to defeat Flint. Flint hears the voice of his former trainer before everything went black. You're still weak, Chimchar. You're useless to me. He's right. I couldn't even hit my enemy. I didn't even get a chance to use a move. Thought Flint as his eyelids fell. You're so brave. Izuku whispered, returns his friend back to his Pokeball. Just rest there, okay? What, is that it? Ha. How pathetic. Who's next? Taunted Hypno. Puff Jigglypuff. Don't mock him, you creep. Is it your turn? Go ahead, attack me first. Hypno skipped his turn. Kirby used Disarming Voice. Hypno used Psychic. Kirby fainted. Ochako reaches for Kirby's Pokeball in her pocket. Kirby is enveloped in a bright red light. You did great, Kirby. Ochako comforts her friend. Ochako, I'm sorry I'm so weak. I couldn't defeat him. Kirby reflected before she disappears back to her Pokeball. Cuckoo, you're strong, amazed, Oliver mutters. Why, thank you. I'm quite flattered. Keek. Cuckoo. But, Izuku and I came up with a strategy to be used against foes far stronger than myself, such as you. And that is? Cuckoo. Make sure none of your enemies' attacks hit you by using moves that raise your evasiveness, lower their accuracy, or by keeping your distance and taking advantage of your speed. And make sure all of your attacks hit your enemy. That is a brilliant strategy for a child of his age. Let's see if you took that strategy to heart. Hypno used Psybeam. Hypno's attack missed. Oliver gracefully dodges the peculiar ray fired by his enemy. Oliver used Razor Leaf. The move makes a direct hit on Hypno, though the damage is insignificant. Oliver used Shadow Sneak. The move has a priority of +1, so he gets to attack first. Since the move is Ghost type and Hypno is Psychic type, it's super effective. Hypno used Psybeam. Again, Oliver dodges with grace. Hypno's attack missed. Oliver used Shadow Sneak. It's super effective. Ugh. How annoying. It's time I get serious. Hypno muttered to himself. Hypno used Hypnosis. Oliver fell asleep. Hypno used Dream Eater and regained some health. Oliver fainted. He disappears in a bright red light and goes back to his Pokeball. You're so cool. You almost beat him. Izuku whispered to his poke friend. Now, only Holly is left to defeat Hypno. If she loses, her friends Izuku and Ochako will be taken away. Then they'll get hypnotized, have their dreams eaten, and Arceus knows what else Hypno might do. She's only level 37 and she deduced that Hypno might be level 90 more or less due to his cockiness and how he one-hit KOs the others. While she may be a legendary Pokemon, she's honestly bad at Pokemon battles as she prefers to stay away from violence. But she can't run away from this battle. Facing Hypno, Holly prepares to use her first move. She has to win this.
Okay, sadly the chapter is over. And if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like and subscribe with post notification. So when the next chapter is ready, you will be notified. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.